How's it going, everybody? Joining me tonight, I have a very special guest and someone you actually already know. Emily, I'm not to discredit you as not being special, but most people who see my stuff might know who you are. So Emily's hanging out, but we also have Rocco Castoro, who's not been on the show before.
Yeah.
Former editor-in-chief of Vice.
Yes.
You have this look on your face.
Hi.
Hello, Rocco.
So you guys have a breaking story, and so we're gonna talk a bit, but. The story that you guys have is it's about weapons trafficking, the Pentagon.
It's about specifically...
What happened to the light?
I don't know. Yours is a little dark.
Oh, man.
It's all good.
Specifically about the 1MDB scandal and a lot of shenanigans, let's say, that came around there. Recently, Elliot Brody, who's the former deputy co-finance chair of the RNC, might remember him as such greatest hits as having to pay a former Playboy Playmate who Bloomberg claimed he coerced into having an abortion, $1.4 million, and then he had to step down from the RNC.
I don't know anything about
Well,
what
you
that
can
was.
Google that. And recently he got indicted for foreign influence, crimes related to foreign influence surrounding the 1MDB scandal. And previously, an associate of his, Nikki Lum Davis, was indicted back in August for similar things. Well, it kind of felt like manna from heaven. We got a cache of documents that resulted in other caches of documents that relate to the 1MDB scandal. But specifically, we have honed in on invoices or quotes, I guess you could say, both within this cache that concern MRAP logistics and support. MRAP are armored vehicles. They're made by the U.S. government, armed forces, that are used, they're actually mine-resistant vehicles, right? So they're like the size of a school bus. This particular document has to do with a quote for, something about, 13 million or something for the original quote?
Oh, the original?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think it might be around 15.
Well,
Go ahead.
we'll get into all that.
Yeah, and that's not...
My camera just is on the fritz right now.
Well,
for
that'll
some
be
reason.
up in about
on?
10 minutes. You guys can watch
yeah.
it. So
Yeah,
maybe
video.
we'll come back to that.
So, but long story short, what is this? Government malfeasance?
It happened in the story starts in 2015, so it's kind of a beautifully apolitical story because it overflows between administrations. So,
Interesting.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
started with Obama.
Well, and it leads into Brody also had a company called Cercinus. That's an open source intelligence company, is what it's referred to, and does other things too. But he was kind of selling packages that were related to some of these government matters.
We'll have to start from the beginning.
Mhm.
So before we get into all
Allegedly,
that,
by the way.
so Rocco Castoro,
According to the documents.
former editor-in-chief of Vice, and now what are you doing?
I'm working for a little outlet called Scanner, or
Oh.
Yeah.
Scener, or SCNR. It's
Scanner.
whatever you want it to be.
So this is this is like one of the first updates we've done in a really long time about
Mhm.
Scanner.
Yeah.
So we started it a while ago. It was Subverse, and now it's Scanner, and you guys have basically been leading the charge on all that stuff. And now you have a big breaking story, which we'll get into. Everybody, I think, well, not everybody, but this is Emily Molly.
This is Emily.
I don't know. Do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah.
Do you want to pull your mic up?
I'm Emily Molly. I have been working for Subverse/Scanner since, February 2019? About.
Mm-hmm.
And then, so now I was primarily doing on-the-ground reporting, covering social movements, civil unrest, and all kinds of other things. And then, started doing this full-time, would typically write and do desk presentations of everything from, cybersecurity to, geopolitics and all kinds of different technology stories while doing my on-the-ground coverage. And now we just kind of flip the format a little bit to more just field reporting, straight up field reporting. And Rocco came in and helped set all of that up.
You know how I know you guys are real journalists? You're boring.
Hey.
Okay, let's spice it up. So, did you lose any money on the election?
No, of course not. I'm
You
not going to bet
sure?
on
I'm
it.
not going to
I
get
didn't bet any.
You like to
way.
gamble? Come on.
No, I like to gamble in a casino with a set amount of money for fun.
But the
Yeah.
odds are probably more accurate than the polls, I would say.
Yeah, but they were flipping around.
They were.
Right?
That's
So-
odds for you.
Yeah. Well, before we'll spice it up. Subscribe, like button, notification bell.
You know what to do.
Shows Monday through Friday
You got
live.
this.
Well, let's. I do want to start talking about with media and stuff though, because
Sure.
I've not had an opportunity to sit down with you and talk about everything in the media. I think a lot of people need to understand when digital media was taking off, you were basically the dude.
I mean, you can say that. That's awfully nice of you, too. I mean, I was certainly a pioneer, if that's not too lame of a word to use. I was at a spot where new media, as they called it back in my day, which obviously was a faulty term because it won't be new for long, was seen as some savior, where BuzzFeed had trending LOL, LOS, and, Vice
Yeah,
was
I
the
remember
bad
that.
boys, right? And then, Vox was the serious, hey, we got Ezra Klein over here and we have Chorus, this CMS product. They were, in other words, they were valued like tech companies, but they had no product. Their content was the product. They tried to show that they had a product, whether that be data, this or that. And if you look at their valuations, it follows suit, where you have a bunch of companies where people probably have super voting shares and stuff, and now they've taken haircuts that have brought them down to less than $1 billion, which is really, where did $5 billion go? I started
For Vice?
Well, that was the largest. That was the highest valuation. I mean,
Yeah, it was like 5.7 though, wasn't
BuzzFeed
it?
was like upwards of $2. People put $500 million in each of these companies, essentially anywhere from 3 to 500, million. Where'd the money go? I don't know. It probably went through ad fraud, which the DOJ has been investigating for years now. And something like, we've been talking to this guy, Dr. Augustine Fowl, who's an ad fraud researcher out of Canada, who's very well respected. A lot of his research, first of all, that he references on his Twitter is amazing, and the research he participates in is also amazing. And we've discovered, upwards of 80% of budgets are screwed up. In terms of most budgets account for 20% of fraud, and you should be looking at 40 to 50%.
So let's slow down. Let's slow down.
Mm-hmm.
So you've got can you name some websites specifically that have done stuff like this?
Well, it's very difficult to classify this. So you have everything from traffic assignment letters, which Variety and a bunch of other sites, Digiday, have written about concerning Vice, which is where other domains trade the sales of their ads for their traffic. You can assign it to yourself.
Wait, we'll slow down. Like, are there any specific websites that you can name that have done things like this? And then we'll explain what it is.
I would say the majority of new media websites during that time, as well as I'd say any website that isn't going to be behind a paywall, does this to an extent. The percentage to which they do it is what the question is here. You can be unwittingly participating in this because ad units get sold in a weird way.
The general idea is we've got big companies, big brands,
Sure.
some of the biggest digital media outlets, and the money they're making is fraudulent.
Well,
they're basically selling ads, telling brands, if you put the ad on our website, you're going to get like 100,000 clicks, right? But then they're actually getting bots fake clicking.
it can be bots. It can be what's called ghost traffic, which is actually a legitimate click. It's very technical. It's not really important. It'd be like me giving you Monopoly money. I'd be like, hey, Tim, here's $1, and you give me a real quarterback. And I keep doing that, right? Eventually that defunds not only the market, but the US dollar and currency, because if you have a backlog of inventory that's flowing through the global advertising system and you keep devaluing that based off fake clicks, that means, what does that mean? I mean, it means that you're devaluing money, right?
Yeah.
It's not right. And it hurts journalism because it allows bad actors to screw out the bottom line.
I think we started seeing. So I remember that era. I remember I think even Shane talked about it, the CEO of Vice, but they were all for it. Basically, they would assign their traffic to other companies so that you would think you were buying an advertisement on a high-profile website like Vice, but you were actually getting like dose.com or something.
But that's not fraud, though. That was legal.
Right.
Yeah.
But
But dose.com,
that was
whatever
traffic assignment
site,
trick.
yeah, that was a traffic assignment trick. But advertisers frown on that now. You can't really be bona fide and do that anymore. ComScore and Nielsen and all these companies have boxed you in on that. Yeah.
So, have you been paying attention to Vice lately?
Not really. I left
No.
in 2015, so I mean.
Can you? You want to talk about?
Sure. I mean, you can ask me questions. I may have to give you a Glomar. I can neither confirm nor deny.
I remember, back in the day when we first met, especially, Vice was like edgy, hip, cool, kind of just doing whatever. You think you had a video where you were like blowing stuff up or something?
Anarchist Cookbook, yeah.
Yeah. And then it started to become like Obama came in. You know what I mean?
I mean, there were certain. I felt like at some point maybe we were doing, or not just them, but and I don't have any proof of this, but other outlets I know were. I know that after I left, Vice worked with the Saudi government, for instance. I feel like they were doing branded content for governments, and I think a lot of mainstream outlets do that. I think a lot of supposedly independent outlets are doing that right now, and they're using botnets. It's the same crap.
CNN did it.
Sure.
CNN would do. It was. I remember back in the day, CNN was accused of doing like nefarious backroom deals with companies.
Sure.
I'm sorry, with countries. But then these countries would be like, no, it's a legitimate commercial buy. It's like branded programming.
But Fox News did it with the whole Seth Rich thing too. I mean, that's under investigation right now.
What was that all about? What was
Well,
that?
there was a meeting between people in a room that had a lunch. I can go ahead and name those people, but I don't want you to get you sued. And we're investigating it.
I think you would get sued.
I don't think I'm going to get sued because it's the truth. And, these people all agreed. Butalski I can name because he's at the center of that. Aaron Rich is currently, going to get to the bottom of the truth. And I think it was a very, 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 very coordinated plan that was based off faulty, I don't mean faulty, a fake intelligence report actually made by Russian intelligence services.
Like
Yeah.
this was
The Seth Rich story.
like when Fox Business published
Yeah.
the Seth Rich story.
I know you've done videos on Seth Rich.
Yeah.
You've taken them down, which is,
Taking the videos down?
you've taken a couple down.
No,
Yes, you have.
I've had a bunch of videos removed.
For what?
I don't know. This was a big deal. My
Really?
video on the Icelandic woman got removed as well. Yeah, they one day I got a list of someone sent me that I had a bunch of videos on my channel were no longer there.
I see.
That's it.
That's weird.
Yeah, it is.
You should inquire about that.
Yeah, because the videos I did on Seth Rich were not particularly definitive, except for the when Fox Business ran a story saying they had a laptop with definitive information or whatever. Like they had a laptop that claimed there was a communication between Rich and WikiLeaks or something.
I remember that when I first started visiting, you called me about possibly working with Subverse or doing some different stuff. You told me straight up when you met with Assange that basically told you Seth Rich did it.
No.
You didn't say that?
No.
Then I got it.
Dude, I wish.
Because then I went to Emily. I didn't know Emily was there with you, and I went to her and asked her, and she's like, "No."
Yeah, I know, dude.
Yeah,
Dude.
okay.
If anything like that would have happened, I would have
I would've
run out the
thought.
door like
That's why
waving
I
the
was like,
papers.
whoa, his videos are removed. So make a guy. I guess
No,
it's the
those
deep
videos got
state.
removed, and NBC used them to smear me.
Mm-hmm.
So Kim.com, came out
Yeah, I remember I signed Kim.com to you, actually, advice.
at Vice. Yeah,
Yeah, I did,
that was
yeah.
fun. That was fun. So, okay, we got to slow down. We got to make sure everybody knows the context,
Yeah.
man.
Okay.
Keep me in the loop.
So,
man.
when I was at Vice, you told me to go to New Zealand or something.
No, it was that.
I was supposed to go on some radio show instead.
We'll walk back a little bit. Like, I had interviewed you in 2011, I think, because we did an issue of Vice that was called the Moral Compass issue. That was right around a crazy year. That was kind of a lot like
Occupy
this
Wall
last
Street.
year, right? Occupy
Yeah.
Wall Street. And I think
Arab Spring.
we'd done a photo shoot actually where we put like guys in Guy Fawkes mask in like really high end fashion, and we just thought it was very disruptive, I guess, and people seemed to like it. And we had to do fashion shoots. It was part of the thing. I'm not a fashion shoot guy, but that was part of my job, and it got us money. So I think I might have met you around that time because we were doing a lot of stuff around there, and I think you were reluctant at first to do an interview. You did the interview, which
Like, I don't know what
that's
it is,
why I
nice.
want to. Yeah. And you were like, you're very rightfully so. I think very cautious about mainstream and media and
Even for Vice at the time. This was 2011.
right. So like, and this is before the HBO show. This is before things. I started a Vice where Gavin had just gotten booted. I've really never met Gavin except we can talk about later the one time I did, and I didn't really realize what was going on. It was 2005 essentially, and started as an editorial assistant for Thomas Morton, who's one of my favorite people ever, and had the ride of my life where I became editor-in-chief a few years later, probably because they had no one else to take the seat.
So I was supposed to go on some radio program in Minnesota or something.
Sure.
Like it was a big national.
Yeah.
And then I guess you told them to send me to New Zealand because I knew
But we
more.
got to back up though, because like I told Vice News to hire you because they were like trying to poach my people that I was working with or had. They just put Jason Mojica, which we won't get into that right now. You can Google who he is, on board. And, I thought to myself, well, they need a lot of content filled. They have no idea what they're talking about with news. They're bringing that guy on. I know Tim's going to annoy the shit out of this guy.
No, so Shane said there was no Vice News before me.
Yeah, but that's
There
not
was
true. I
like-
built the entire budget.
No.
Plan, yeah.
But there was like
I have the-
they would run content. They would put Vice News on it, but the official channel was supposed to be the things that didn't make HBO. That's what Shane said.
Sure, once it got funded, but HBO wasn't around for about a year before Vice News.
But so when
After Vice News, then they got funded. But
I
it was
actually-
YouTube funded.
I had to talk to them.
Yeah.
I don't want to name everybody and drag everybody through. Like there's I'm not going to name certain people, But I had to negotiate with them on actually doing the on-the-ground live stream stuff because they didn't want to do it.
No, that's not true because I told them you should hire this kid to do live stream. I was doing live
No,
stream.
they told me they didn't want to do
Well,
it.
that didn't really work out that way, did it? You
No,
guys-
it didn't.
yeah,
I know.
yeah, yeah.
Probably because you were telling them to
I
hire
was.
me.
And then I said, why aren't you going to go send them? You guys want big hits. You're trying to poach my people. Send Tim to Kim.com. And it got, and then they
5
wouldn't
million
fund
views
it.
overnight.
I funded it. I said,
Yeah.
fine, here you go. And you went. I kind of regret that because the video should have been higher production. But
Well, they had this thing there where it was like constantly begrudgingly doing things, you know. So
whatever.
And then
that's the
you
media.
were,
That's the media.
Right,
you can
right, right.
complain about that. You got to play the game if you're going to.
Okay, okay, but we were talking
no
about
limits soldier.
the Seth Rich stuff.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so Kim.com, right? I had I think it was, I'm not gonna say, I don't want to say any names, but one of the main directors came to me and says, do you want to go to New Zealand and interview Kim.com, like the famous hacker guy? or
Yeah,
whatever.
yeah.
And I knew a bit. I knew a decent amount about him already.
Sure.
And the concern was that the person they had normally had do interviews didn't know anything about these people. I guess someone interviewed Assange before, and it wasn't like substantive.
It wasn't good.
So I actually knew a ton, and then I don't know, what capacity.
Well, we have to go back in time and when Kim.com was. This was right when he was being
it was around the
He-
mega upload stuff.
the mega upload stuff. So this is before Kim.com was any sort of political spokesperson or force in any which way, shape, or form, except for like the same wavelength as Assange in terms of data rights and
Right.
freedom. Right?
He
But
got got raided by like the MPAA
Right,
in New
right,
Zealand.
right.
So for those that don't know, Kim.com was an internet entrepreneur, never set foot in the United States, launched a company called Mega Upload where you could host like you could it was
Great
it was
site.
it's like Google Drive,
Yeah.
right?
Before there was
Google Drive,
Yeah.
but people were using it for piracy. You could upload a video and then search it and find movies. So sure enough, they accused him of being a pirate, and then eventually they raided his mansion compound in New Zealand, and it was American interests with the New Zealand government that did it.
Well, I would imagine New Zealand probably had some interest in that too,
For sure.
considering their partner countries. But yes, sure.
So I ended up interviewing the guy. We did the video. The video took off. It did really, really well. And then, where did you want to go? You wanted to go back in time, but we were talking
That
about
was
Seth
it.
Rich.
I wanted to give it some context. Yeah.
Right on. So
Since Kim.com amplified the Seth Rich story so much,
right,
and he's
so
just wrong.
so then
Sorry.
then there was this DNC email leak, and how did this even like idea emerge? It was Assange, right? He was doing an interview, and they asked him.
No, there was a fake SRV or SVR. I always get it confused. Russian intelligence report, but it was made by Russian intelligence, and this is from the mouth of the prosecutor essentially working on the case at the time. And she's retired. Michael Itzkoff did a great thing called Conspiracy Land on this.
Yeah.
I think your friend Cassandra's on that too. But she had something very close to that. And so did Luke Radowski, who I also know from back in the days in Vice.
Yeah, I still know Luke. He had something on this.
Well, he was one of the very first people to run a story by Alice
Donovan.
Donovan.
Oh,
I
interesting.
think I might get this wrong. Sorry, I didn't research.
Well, yeah, there were some posts made on We Are Change. Alice Donovan, I believe, was the first one.
Well, Alice Donovan's named in both the Mueller report, in which we don't need to get into that whole thing, but it's very clear when you look at the previous postings before Seth Rich that it's a Russian propaganda vehicle, right?
Mm-hmm.
And what else did they talk about, like pro-Assad stuff?
Yeah, apparently there was certain pro-Assad talking points, I guess, being laundered through various blogs. And I think Alice Donovan was also one of the authors.
Interesting.
Yeah,
Making
and it was being laundered through like places like Sputnik and RT, which Sandra was working at. But we know that that a intelligence report, a fake one, that was used in collusion with a group of individuals. One being the Fox News reporter that initially reported the story that had to retract. And now there's a bunch of lawsuits for it, Batalsky, et cetera. Yeah.
So it was I think it was a Fox Business article claiming that his laptop had communications with WikiLeaks.
Yep.
And that was the basis for something I talked about. And then someone asked me in like a live stream, did I think it was true or not? And I was like, 60, 70% or whatever. And we literally had an article from Fox saying that they were communications, and that was the basis of it.
Yeah.
That was used by NBC to smear me, claiming I was pushing the conspiracy. But I was also saying, Kim.com is claiming it's true. And I'm pretty sure I said in every video, these things never pan out. Stuff like this doesn't happen.
I see.
The likelihood there's evidence is probably slim to none. But I don't think Kim.com's a liar. I've met the guy. I've talked to him. And so I guess we'll see how this, plays out. And then at some point, a bunch of videos got purged from my channel. What was really irksome about this is that I discovered it because I had a video I produced in Norway called The Isdal Woman of Norway.
Uh-huh.
This is just me going to Bergen, Norway, and talking. But this is the craziest thing. I was talking to local researchers about a woman who was found dead just outside of the city of Bergen. She was like found face down in a fire pit, dead of smoke inhalation, and they found a suitcase full of like passports and a bunch of other stuff. It's a very famous, like, it's not a conspiracy story because it literally happened. They just don't know who she was. There's also the story. Do you know the story of Talmud Shud?
It sounds familiar.
Guy in Australia washes up on shore,
Yeah.
and then he's got a bunch of passports. So I just talked to some locals, and like, we were walking around in Bergen, and we asked some locals what's a good story, and they said, "Oh, the Isdal woman, the ice woman." That video's gone, and I loved showing it to people because it was just a silly mystery video. There was like, all we did was talk folklore with locals. I went on my channel because I'll be like, check out this really old video we made. It was really fun. Gone.
Do you know a backup of it?
No. So nowadays, all my videos are backed up on like BitChute or Minds.com.
But that was
But back then, and so then someone sent me an email saying, like, I mentioned it, and they were like, I went through and checked, and there was something like 30 videos that had been removed from my channel without me knowing. Very interesting. I have some ideas about Google and what Google wants, and what Facebook wants, and what the big tech companies are doing. And a simple way to put it is, why for some reason my channel doesn't get removed?
Well, I've had some of my videos have over 15 million views, and if you Google my name, you will not be able to find them.
Yeah.
You explained that one too, and 3 of them have been removed. One
We had. Do you know who Alan Bakari is?
No.
Breitbart tech reporter.
Okay.
We had him in. He wrote a book, and he
Oh,
talked.
isn't that Cassandra's friend?
Yeah.
Okay.
He talked about how Facebook has, and I'm probably gonna butcher what he was telling me, so just fact check this. That they try to figure out what kind of content de-radicalizes people, and then promote it as much as possible.
That's weird.
Yep. That's so.
Either which way, it's psychographic.
So then when I hear like a bunch of my videos got removed, but I don't want to get too conspiratorial.
Well, yeah, I guess But at the same time, it's like if they're doing that, and there's no explanation, there should be an investigation
into like why videos are gone.
Well, what you just said, if they're doing the de-radicalization or they're promoting, the algorithm for some reason promotes, and I'm not saying it's a human choice, somehow gets flipped in a way that inadvertently promotes radicalization videos. Like, we need to know about that as people. We need to have access to that data publicly.
The challenge is they don't know how do you define what is radicalizing, because it's subjective perspective.
The disingenuousness of and the intent, which is a hard thing to prove. Yes.
No.
Difficult.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, obviously, if someone's putting out fake news, misinformation,
Sure.
and disruptive, but if someone says something like, my opinion on taxation is X.
Let me put it this way: if you purposefully use things like botnets, malware, click fraud, ad fraud, and you use that to boost your message, that is fraud. And
Absolutely.
that devalues advertising. It's 100% fraud. And if you call yourself a journalist or in the media and doing that, I'm going to find you and I'm going to take your money out of your pockets. And that's what I've been working on the past year.
I'm going to avoid saying some names.
Don't have to. Yeah. Oh, their servers have already been scraped. We hired 12 Security, who's a renowned systems administrator.
Wait, am I supposed to assume who you're talking about?
You don't have to.
He's been in like the Washington Post and New York Times. He discovered the
Well, yeah, I was going to tell you that.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's discovered several zero-day exploits, and he's like 29 from Texas, a maniac.
Wait, who's this guy?
His name's Dan Ehrlich.
Yeah, hi, Dan.
Shout outs to Dan.
So you found stuff in newspapers or what? Or
Not
you
newspapers,
exploits breaking into them?
No, we have found we can talk about Cernovic's site. Is that his name?
Cernovich. Mike
I don't know
Cernovich.
who he is. I never knew who he was till we started looking at his website.
Yeah.
These people I don't get on my radar because I have no interest in what they're talking about. But, we have a report here that talks about, MAGA 3X.
Yeah, what is it?
Amplification, hashtag movement is what it could simply be, like hashtag MAGA 3X. But we have, there's pretty good evidence that it was used to arrange real life flash mobs. And certainly attract American sympathizers online who would agree to spread memes and conspiracy theorists and stuff like that. And the reason we know that is because Jeff Ducia, you're familiar with Jeff Ducia? He wrote a kind of treatise on memetic warfare. And I don't think a lot of people understand that memes and memetics are like genes and genetics. A meme is a unit of cultural, it's a unit of cultural currency, if you will.
So I know about MAGA 3X. It
Sure.
was literally Cernovich posting on Twitter It was something like, for every Trump supporter, get 3 of your friends and
but
like go out and do stuff.
I think that's how it started, but whatever it turned into was a lot bigger than that.
What was it?
okay.
You got the
Who's saying
report
who's
on
gonna-
front
Spot
of you.
there, Rocco.
I mean, look, there's
And what is this? What is this from?
well, this is from Mike's DMs, right? So
Yeah.
these very clearly spell out a conversation with what's his name, Baked Giannette.
Baked Alaska.
I don't know his real name, Giannette, something like that. I really don't know these people. So
Yeah.
I have no horse in this game. I've tweeted at him, being like, hey, I want to talk, but this is like basically him and Baked Alaska having a falling out over.
Interesting.
Looks like right after or right before the deplorable. So I think,
Yeah.
and he actually, this thing Baked Alaska makes, it says, I don't know if you can see that or if the camera can see it.
Yeah, careful with that.
The memes he was posting.
It's a meme. It's a meme though. I mean, like,
Yeah, but
Yeah, so
Yeah.
that dude started getting more and more white nationalist,
yeah.
which resulted in him getting banned from social media.
Right.
And then he got booted from a bunch of events for posting these things and for like
no, it seems as such. But I
Yeah.
also know that around that time, various soup PACs and super PACs were formed. That one of them, which was retroactively formed, and also this talk of this amplification network and what we would assume is a botnet started to form, and we have very clear evidence that was happening.
I know we probably glossed over a lot of like too much stuff already,
Sure.
but
the
just
people
explain
know.
what a botnet is.
Well, botnet is, and it's a very, it can be a misnomer because it's shorthand for sort of any amplification that's fraudulent or happens, and it doesn't even have to be illegal. So fraudulent would mean anything from, hey, 20% or 30% of my traffic is boosted through paid clicks or paid advertising. It could mean I have malware on my machine that infects your machine and creates a ghost browser that, can push 30,000 redirects in 10 seconds across the internet while your computer's asleep. Right?
Basically, it's a network of robots.
It's a network
you
of-
take
yeah,
over
yeah.
everyone's computer.
And it's gotten so good that AI, based off of documents, and this is something that you can see on Mike's servers, right, is like placed into a bunch of document bins, and the AI will do everything from tweet to do Facebook to who knows, really. That's beyond my technical level, but Dan and I, we were putting together a massive report on this that will be transparent. We've already given the IPs over to a lot of people. We've even found some...
So what is it?
It's
Like, what's the bottom line on it?
it's a amplification network that makes stories that are disingenuous and outright incorrect, stuff like the Seth Rich story. It propagates that in a way that gets inside people's heads. Everyone knows that memes do that. And it's not a meme in the sense of a visual thing. It's an actual cultural idea that becomes permanent. It also commits fraud that monetizes this disingenuous action, and it undermines U.S. security interest.
So you have a report saying that the intention is to...
No, I am reporting and parallel reconstructing various sources that I have that are exclusive and corroborating it. And that's what we're doing. I think part 2 of our report, a lot of this centers around a Chinese national named Guo Wingui, but we're not going to get into that unless you want to. But it's that stuff's bonkers. But like we would have to sit here for 4 hours, which I would happily do.
The bottom line, what is it? There's American interests that have created...
It's a national security issue.
And it's not just American interests.
Yeah, and it's a foreign relations issue, and it should be prosecuted to the full extent of the law.
But what is it? Like, what's happening?
You are undermining U.S. security interest by one, defunding legitimate journalism. Like, that's just from a professional standpoint, but we can put that aside. 2, doing stuff like having spoof certificates on your website that can backdoor into what appear to be government servers. That's at least from what I understand and what I'm looking at. And I'm not going to be specific about whose server that is on, but he knows who it is. And that you'd agree that it's undermining national security interests if someone could do that, right?
Do what? False subject?
If they could backdoor into government servers.
Of course.
Okay. And 3, it's disingenuous. Stuff like McMaster's leaks and that kind of stuff is faulty and disingenuous.
But what I guess what I mean is you're saying that
You're undermining.
there are international interests that have created an AI that can boost fake news, like disinformation.
No, I would say there's a blend of, okay, it's hypothetical, but let's say that I'm a country like, people forget that it's not Russia or China or this. Ever heard of a Red Hat hacker?
Yeah.
I'm banned from China because I tried to report on Red Hat hackers back in 2013.
So explain for people who don't know what that is.
People know what a black and white hat hacker
No,
is. They don't.
They
but
don't.
They know what they know like the Garth Brooks song. I don't know who wrote it. Good guys always wear white or whatever. a black hat and a white hat cowboy. You know that, right? So like a red hat it really is a reference to communism because it came out of a Chinese sort of. China didn't have the internet at the same time the U.S. did, and when they did, they got it. It was actually run through Hong Kong servers, the internet exchange there, right? Only recently has mainland China gotten servers, and those servers, there's people before the Great Chinese Firewall, which is how China's internet is censored, right? Stuff like Tiananmen Square, you can't watch it, right? It's supposed to be removed. All references are supposed to be removed. So the red hat hackers are people that are security analysts, quote unquote, that get to basically have free access to the internet in exchange for their services, which would be anything, that's aligned with the Chinese government's interest.
Yeah.
And I interviewed several of these folks because it was right after Snowden. I had a great time talking to them because we really spoke on the same wavelength. I'm like, you're not even loyal to the Chinese government. You're loyal to the internet. And they're like, yes, you get it, right? It's true. But if you're in China and you want full access to the internet, you're going to have to do that, right? So the red hat hackers will always act in the interest of the nation state that they're from. But at the end of the day, they're just hackers, and hacker culture comes from the United States.
They're like pirates.
Yeah.
Like how pirates used to be.
So exactly. And in exchange for their services, they basically get immunity, right? So if they can commit cybercrime on the side, it's a great way to plausibly deny influence from foreign actors. Like if I give you a bunch of malware and say, I'm going to put on your servers, Tim, right? Or whatever, and that amplifies your message, it helps me because it's on your servers. Even if I'm maintaining the databases that it connects to and using those databases to sell it to, all sorts of various actors, both legitimate and illegitimate, it's a great way for me to walk away from it and say, I didn't have anything to do with that. That was all Tim, right?
Right.
Yeah.
It's how the pirates operated in the colonial eras. I guess it wasn't just one time, but they would give privateers, private warships, letters of marque, go do your thing, help us, and then we'll disavow all knowledge. But, you're free to loot and pillage our enemies. So then you essentially have these hacker groups that the government can go, oh no, they're criminals, oh heavens, we didn't sanction these hackers, but they're doing things that help their nation state.
Right.
Yeah.
And the U.S. is more reluctant to do that because it's in some ways it's an exploit against our freedom of speech and the boundaries of the law in the U.S. for a free nation.
Yep.
Right. Yeah.
So are you saying that China was interfering in the U.S. elections?
I'm saying that they've been long interfering along with many other actors that operate both in sync with nation state interest as well as in their own interest. And that's a pretty easy thing to understand.
And I think you also got to look outside of the election because it's not just the election. This has been stuff that's going on beyond just decision making at the highest ends of the government.
So like what's going on?
Well,
let's get into the meat and potatoes.
Is
What do
this
you got?
up
What's
here?
happening?
Is this up?
Okay. Well, people are being compromised at all levels of the government and also in private sectors. And I think
Compromised how? Like, what does that mean?
Well, whether you want to call them assets, spies,
For China?
not just China, but yeah, sure, we'll say that.
No. But for like international interests.
Because there are other countries that have mutually aligned interests and will work together, or they'll just work on their own.
Right.
And I'll say China specifically has a very robust Ministry of State Security that spends billions of dollars on compromising Americans, and they've done a lot of that already.
Do you guys know about how they were going after these university professors and what was it, the 1,000? Is that related to it?
Yes.
Yep.
Really?
There's a list of spies and lists that have been used against databases. Guo was a person that was very interested in this, we'll say.
Yeah.
And people like Michael Waller were or at least duped or wittingly, unwittingly, deposition isn't clear because pages are missing. They used databases that were pre-existing. So if I have a Facebook database and I have a healthcare database and I know the spy names of 25 spies, right? And I use enough interrelated databases just to kind of compare these things, I might be able to out who they are based off interrelated characterizations and psychographic data points, right?
But that's not definitive. That's like
Well, it is
educated
definitive when
guess.
you find out that Obama or somebody had 15 of them on a
What? Didn't Dianne Feinstein have somebody?
It butts up against security issues, and you find that out very quickly.
We had how many professors were taking money from China?
There's 100 at Harvard, at least, according to the list.
Right now, you're saying there's 100.
It
That's-
says something like that. According, I don't know if the list we have are real or fake. We're verifying
Holy
them.
cow.
We
Okay,
know-
that could
Just
be
say we've got plenty
dangerously
to work on.
irresponsible.
No, I said it. We don't know. We know that the list being used to blackmail people has that on there, which is what's important. You
Whoa.
know? In other words, we don't know if what we're looking at is both real and fake or mixed in between. But all three of those scenarios are very troubling that we have to figure
should
out,
I
you
have
know?
called security before you guys came on to like report this kind
Well,
of stuff?
the FBI called us the other day, actually,
Really?
unsolicited.
Really?
Yeah. Well, I heard they also called someone else, you know. But that,
Yeah,
I think,
yeah,
that-
it's
yeah,
true,
I
yeah,
think he
yeah.
committed
Adam,
voter. I
Adam.
think he committed voter fraud. As
No,
well.
no.
They thought he might.
I don't know if I can talk about I don't know if Adam's talked about it yet,
No.
but he got a bit from
I
the
don't know
FBI.
him. I just saw someone sent me the tweet.
Nothing to do with fraud or anything.
Yeah.
like
Okay.
that.
Well, ours was we got a very pleasant. I got a voicemail from somebody. I'm not going to say the name. Out of the blue, and the voicemail was, I thought it was a prank. Hey, this is the Los Angeles Bureau of the FBI. I've never talked to the FBI. FBI has never called me. Once advice when we unmasked the Syrian Electronic Armies, like 15.
I remember that.
They came to the office. I talked to the
know how much I should
CTO. Get
say.
out of here. Like, I don't want to talk. Like, and so like they call and they were like, hey, we're a big fan of your work. Like, I'm like, or they didn't say that. They said, we heard you have a tip. They said that later when I called them back. They said, we heard you have a tip. We got a tip that you have a tip that you want to tell us. That was what they left a message on. I mean, I could play it for you, but I don't want to.
I heard from a guy that you got something to say. to
Yeah,
me.
and I'm like, this is not real.
Right.
And so I called a lawyer, I know, and they were like, you need to call the switchboard because we've had some issues with this. Find out if they're real, verify the number, and then let us know. And so I did that. Turns out they were real, and they work in the cyber crimes division. I said, I don't have any tips for you. I appreciate your kind words. Just watch our videos, and that'll be your tip.
Yeah.
So then I found out later that they were actually, well, we'll get into that another time.
Yeah.
Okay. Earlier this year, Mike Pompeo said that we have been infiltrated at all levels by the Chinese.
Sounds like he's right.
And it's been like that for a while.
Yeah, that's
So
nothing
wait.
new.
I assumed you would say something like, yeah. You're just saying like, oh yeah, of course.
Yeah, of course.
I'm sorry, we've been like looking at this for months now, so I guess I'm a little
Yeah, I'm-
desensitized to it.
I'm
Yeah.
like, wait,
Okay.
hold on. You have
Yeah.
a list of compromised individuals
That's insane, you
No,
guys.
we don't have that. Like we're not saying that. We have the list that Guo tried to, or he did scrape.
Well, we
We
have a
believe,
list
yeah.
that's been scraped, and I know a lot about what Guo was looking for just because I've read like thousands of pages of depositions and court documents at this point, and I know specifically he was looking for specific people, and 15 of those people had basically their records it's illegal to look up their records because they are people who are either being investigated or are cooperating with the government right now.
So wait, he was trying to find who the compromised people were?
Yeah. Well,
Interesting.
no. He was trying to find, I wouldn't say they're necessarily compromised. These 15 people are
Yeah.
records protected, basically.
Yeah.
So whether those are, a lot of people allege that he's a dissident hunter, and a lot of people say
Interesting.
he's outing Chinese spies within the U.S. So it's sort of this question is like, are these, is he actually looking for people who are cooperating with the government, or is he looking for people who are Chinese spies? So that's the really big question that we've been investigating. And we ended up with a list that we're working off of very slowly.
You have names?
And
We're not going to name any names.
Oh,
we're
man.
smarter than that.
you might be.
Come
You
on,
want to be
man.
careful about what you
Yeah,
ask
yeah,
for. Tim.
really.
Yeah, I'm excited.
But yeah, so we're going to be coming out with a lot more just in
We
the
will.
process of this
And
reporting.
well, is the next video up yet?
Yeah, so
Oh, yeah,
we
it's up
just
now.
uploaded episode 2 of Scanner Investigates. Guo
So
Knows.
yeah, continue. Sorry.
Keep going.
And this one specifically, some of the investigating we've done around Elliot Brody, and there's still more that we're doing with that. But specifically, we went looking into some of the documents. One of which was a draft, basically a calculation of MRAP parts, armored vehicles. We talked a little bit about this earlier, but basically we went to Colorado to visit an office that used to make these kinds of deals to authenticate a certain document, which they did for us. So people can go watch it and get a kind of bigger picture. It's a very small part of this story that we're going to be continuing to report on. But yeah,
Why
episode
is-
2's up now.
Oh, go ahead.
This spans administrations. You were saying.
Well,
It starts in. It
yeah.
appears from some of the documents that we have. It appears to start in 2015.
Interesting.
So whether it involves Obama directly, we can't say for sure because he's not mentioned in the 2015.
it's a
documents
bit.
that we have.
It's
This is difficult to piece together. I think you guys have been like staring at everything.
Why don't we read the top letter off that pile of documents.
Sure.
Can we read that?
Yeah, give us the elevator pitch.
So this
What's
is
happening?
literally what's on top, the first page on a packet of documents that we got that we can only assume were used to leverage something somebody wanted, because it's like what you would give to someone to be like, you're effed, right?
Wow.
You're effed, and you better do what I say because I got you on this. So if you come after me,
So it's damning
yes.
information used to blackmail somebody.
well, it's all from what we believe to be evidence servers. So you do the math.
Evidence, like government servers.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Somebody broke into government servers.
Or
Where-
someone wiped them and made copies and gave it.
What?
And they're publicly available, which is, you'll see why
Oh
that's
yeah, they're
important.
publicly available. You
No
just
one
gotta
knows
know where to
look.
look.
Yeah.
Oh,
And we
geez.
figured that out.
So what's the
Snap.
so who's trying to do what? What's the
We
what's
don't
the
know.
end
That's
game?
what we're trying to
Do
figure
you
out.
want me to read the top letter?
Yeah, let's read that.
Yeah,
Okay.
do it.
Okay, we do read this in our first episode, and then we referred back to it in our second episode. But I'll just read it real quick. And this is an email from Elliot Broidy to Elliot Broidy, which
So
you know,
and who is he?
Elliot Broidy is what was his title
The
again?
former co-chair, finance co-chair of the RNC.
Republican National Convention.
And Michael
Committee.
Cohen was as well, and he got indicted way back
Yeah.
when. Everyone knows that. And so was Steve Wynn, and he got some troubles with the ladies and the massages.
All right.
You might remember.
Of course. So
and,
they all?
Yeah. And then
Brody-
Elliot Broidy, you know.
Brody also has an open source intelligence company called Cercinus, which has gotten awarded contracts from the government before. So this is, it's, you know, have you ever sent an email to yourself just like of information?
Yeah.
Yeah. So this
Yeah.
is an email to himself.
Right.
And one of several drafts that over the next couple of years, there's different iterations
Mhm.
of. Yeah.
So it says, FYI, I'm closing an open source intelligence center installation in an Asian country. The focus will be improving counterterrorism efforts against ISIS. The country involved has good relations with China and the U.S. and offered a lucrative opportunity. China wants to extradite from the U.S. Guo Wengwei, who is very critical of President Xi Jinping and now living as a fugitive in New York City. Guo defrauded many investors, including Abu Dhabi, for $3 billion. With elections coming up with China this fall, the Chinese want him to be kept quiet. I believe a negotiation can take place, which includes Abu Dhabi receiving its $3 billion back and Abu Dhabi extraditing Guo from the U.S. to Abu Dhabi. Later, Abu Dhabi would allow extradition to China. I was told China would pay us, and if the facts are indeed correct, I assume Abu Dhabi would feel obliged to pay a fee as well. Please check facts on your end. Thank you. And then this next part says, this information is strictly for you and MBZ only. You know who MBZ is?
Who's MBZ?
Okay, well, if you don't know who he is, you should look him up.
What just
But-
say it? Just what?
MBZ?
Yeah. So
yeah.
MBZ, I want to get his title correct. But he's a very he's a really prominent political figure, and he's Mohammed bin Zayed Al Nahyan.
Yeah,
Sorry.
it's behind.
I didn't want to butcher his name.
They
so
call it
I already
Mohammed bin
did. Anyway.
Zayed.
So Mohammed
Oh
bin
yeah,
Zayed.
yeah. Which country is it?
So he's Crown Prince of the Emirate of Abu Dhabi.
Interesting.
It's UAE.
Interesting.
Yeah. Wasn't he involved in the recent peace agreements with Trump and
Yes.
UAE and
yes,
Israel?
yes.
So this information is strictly for you and MBZ only. The Asian country involved is Malaysia. They are in dire need of closer relationship and cooperation with the U.S. I conveyed 3 important ways for Malaysia to cooperate and assist U.S. 1. Cooperate closely on counterterrorism efforts against ISIS, Al-Qaeda, etc. 2. Cooperate on North Korea, given their special long-term relationship. They can do much to help. And 3. Cooperate and act in a more balanced way with regard to China/U.S. This is very real. Along with items 1 to 3 above, which I requested, this additional item was offered to me to sweeten the deal, open source intelligence center deal. I am working on, which is $42 million per year, and already agreed to. As you know, they have big legal issues from their sovereign fund and 1MDB development fund, which we mentioned a little earlier.
Yeah.
Malaysia recently settled Abu Dhabi for $1.2 billion in debt repayment. Malaysia is receiving assistance from China. In fact, they received assistance to pay the settlement with Abu Dhabi. Malaysia wants me to assist them, and they stressed China as additional deals for me. I told them USA first, and I cannot and will not do defense or intel business with China. They told me to get involved on Guo, which is not sensitive to national security of US. But it is.
The irony of that last statement.
I would
is,
say
yeah,
it's a little bit.
a
Yeah.
little
Yeah.
tiny bit.
Yeah,
a little bit.
So yes.
So, what's the gist of this email? It is hard to follow.
It's very simple. There is a crime caper, and it's more interesting than any James Bond movie you've ever seen. It's,
Interesting.
Guo took 2 sovereign wealth funds, so think of it like 2 hedge funds of $5 billion or a piece. These numbers aren't correct, but think about it that way, so simplify it. Slammed them together. One of them was a 1MDB, and well, let's put it this way. He slammed multiple funds together, and the sparks that flew off, all these people tried to collect, right? And then to absolve themselves of the crime because it was an international scandal, after Trump came in, they tried to approach various parties to get it dropped, right? And we have all the documents and the contracts between people like
Get
J-Lo.
what dropped, like the criminal investigation?
The criminal investigation on the U.S. side of the 1MDB scandal, because other international investigations were happening already.
Right.
Wolf of Wall Street. Remember Wolf of Wall Street?
Yeah.
Leo DiCaprio kind of got caught up with it. That was the only headline in America, is like America cares about, right? Is the movies. And J-Lo Tech was a executive producer on that film, and was well known and loved throughout Hollywood. He was on the hot seat. So he hired actually Broidy's wife, Robin Broidy, who's an entertainment attorney. We have all the contracts, right? $75 million she was promised, plus a I don't know what the retainer was, but a fixed retainer if they could get it dropped within, or get the matter resolved, and the matter was the Wolf of Wall Street. So you got to do the math there, and that's all it said. And it was like an 8-page contract, $75 million if it was dropped within half a year, and
Half a
then
year,
50 if it was a year plus the retainer. I mean, these aren't small numbers, obviously. And J-Lo Tech was one of the supposed alleged architects behind this, and hasn't come back to the States in a while. Supposedly living in China, sort of.
The architect of the deal where they slammed the things together, or what?
Well, he took a lot of the money from the 1MDB fund and spent it on things like a yacht and jewelry, and his girlfriend at the time, who was like some Hollywood model. Yeah, she was a model. She had to return something like $6 or $8 billion or $1 million.
No, not billion.
Yeah, I'm sorry, $1 million dollars worth of jewelry.
I was like, whoa.
Yeah,
Wow.
That's a
It's a
jewelry.
lot of jewelry, yeah.
It's
So I'm
amazing.
used to bigger numbers with this
What's
stuff.
so where does this all go? Where we
Well,
at?
it's really simple. It's like when you're getting emails trying to convince you to play golf, or get the president to play golf with the prime minister of Malaysia, who's under investigation for manhandling this deal. I mean, he was the guy in charge of the sovereign wealth fund. Buck stops with him, and his stepson is the guy for Red Granite Pictures that greenlit Wolf of Wall Street. You're in a situation where you're then, it looks like quid pro quo arrangements, and you're close enough to the president to influence that, and they're
Interesting.
doing money through your business. What would you call that?
Whoa, interesting.
Business, like usual?
Maybe, yeah.
I'm not the one
It's
to determine
just-
that. The law and order, right?
Yeah.
Law is the place to determine that.
So what do you think is going to happen? What
I think there are several ongoing depositions and inquiries that people don't know about, that no one has looked at. Well, that all of this has been a distraction. Bullshit.
what has been a distraction?
Sorry, I coughed. I figure if the president can say it on live TV, can say it on YouTube.
That seems
No,
fair, right?
YouTube's brutal, man.
So,
So no, I continue.
well, I'm just saying, I don't know what's going to happen, but I know several people who are currently under investigation and who are talking, or they're witnesses, and they're talking off the record, and that this will all come to a head soon, and it happened a long time ago.
What's are you talking about compromised people in the U.S.?
I don't know. It's ongoing investigation. I don't want to speculate based off. I don't want to get killed, probably.
So, but this when you mentioned there are people, like you said, 100 people at Harvard.
I mean, that's what the
Well-
list says. We don't know if that's a
Sure.
It's being manipulated.
Is this like his
But
list
there
of
was people that
suspected-
you asked about Harvard because somebody was sent back from Harvard.
I think it was 2 people at
Yeah,
Harvard.
more than one. Yeah.
And actually, they were associated with something interesting. Do you guys know about that? Maybe we shouldn't get into that.
The Chinese program?
The 1,000
Yeah.
whatever it's called.
Mhm.
What was it called?
That's well known, like the 1,000
yeah.
Talents program, I
Yeah,
think?
1,000 talents.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah, there's more to it, but we'll
there's a little bit more to it.
Well,
Neural net
Interesting.
and a lot
Neural
of
net.
What?
Yeah.
What is,
Go-
what is this? What is this?
Go
What
look
is
at Go look
happening?
at what Harvard's working on with bioengineering.
So-
Check it out.
I know that earlier in the year, Mike Pompeo said we've been infiltrated by the Chinese at every level.
Yep.
Every level. And then we've had repeated investigations into university professors who were double dipping. China was paying them while they were also getting grants from the U.S., which is illegal. Call it spying or whatever.
It's compromised. You're compromised.
Right.
Yeah, you're
So-
compromised.
Is this the worst thing about it? That we have people in the U.S. that have there's leverage against them from foreign interests. Is that it?
I mean, the scale is probably the worst thing.
I think the scale is
Yeah.
absolutely the worst thing. And
The scale meaning.
Like the Chinese can print infinite money, and they got a lot of people.
Yep.
So that's it.
This is true.
But so they can keep compromising people, or
So
what?
you can have 55,000 spies in the U.S., and that's nothing. And how many spies do we have in China? Not as many.
Right.
You
Yeah.
got to figure.
So we're compromised from the top down.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Is that the gist of it?
I've been told, and I obviously can't confirm this, that our GIS system is compromised.
What is GIS?
It's a global positioning system,
Okay.
basically, but it's not GPS. It's how you keep the map from changing, we'll say.
I'm pretty sure everything you're saying. First of all, I will be completely honest. It's hard to follow.
Yeah,
Of course it is. It's
there's a-
we're gonna
purposefully,
try-
yeah.
I mean, yeah, we are really close to it, and we've been looking at it for a really long time now. So that's why we're trying to do our best to like break it down into
And
bite-sized
he-
videos, and starting with very specific people, and then hopefully.
And we just
Bring
told
You
you.
won't be
experience.
dead before you get to the final
Right.
episode.
Yeah, it's
And we
fair.
just told you that you'll see in our second part, it doesn't get into all this. All we do in our second part is prove the documents, or at least the narrowly defined documents we're looking at in that video are real by going to a vendor. And they're like, yeah, we don't know how they got a hold of that. We didn't give it to them, which is weird.
So the challenge is, with stories like this, there's so many pieces that need to be broken down individually before you can
Exactly.
fully understand what
Well,
you're
other
looking at.
outlets are corroborating our reporting. and
So,
that-
like,
yeah.
for instance, we need to know what a sovereign wealth fund, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, we need to know what that is.
Well, you're an idiot if you don't know what that is, because
Oh,
it's-
really?
Yeah,
Oh,
because
really?
the government. You
Well, fill
are
me in
no.
then.
You guys should be talking about this every day because it's the upper echelons of the government
Sovereign wealth
ripping
fund.
off its people
All right.
at the highest level. You know,
Interesting.
that's why those smart people make money,
Yep.
and people get in the streets and fight about BS when they should be looking at their own
I
government.
will
Privilege.
say
Yeah.
there's a lot of distractions being put out into the media right now, and it's not people are eating it up, and it does take people's attention
Yeah.
away from this
Bread
stuff.
and circuses.
Yeah, possibly. But
And
I
they
also think,
amplify, the bad actors amplify these simplified dog do messages. It's like
yeah.
America can't seem to understand anything beyond red versus blue or this team versus that team. They got to have two, and if there's more than two options, they get really confused. And
True.
that's the
Yeah,
media's
very
fault.
true.
That
So
is
that's what we're
media's
trying to
fault.
change. Is that things are complicated, and if you don't care, fine, go watch the Kardashians. Oh wait, you can't
Bro, we
because there's
don't-
a pandemic and nothing's on TV.
We have journalism in this country has been whittled down to a dry, burnt husk,
Yeah.
Yes.
rotting in the corner.
So much though that we've been accused of being intelligence agents by Steptoe, which is Broidy's very high-priced law firm, and also Jeffrey Epstein's law firm. Do you want me to read that letter? It's pretty fun.
What, they called you spies?
On election
yeah.
day. Oh, we got an election day
Saucy.
surprise.
Interesting.
Well,
So-
they called agents.
Agents?
Agents.
Accusing you of being government
How did
agents?
you not get this email? It was addressed to your
It's
Scanner
Tim.
account.
I know.
It has you.
Oh,
on
you
it.
do know.
Yeah. It's actually
but
addressed
it's
to
you-
you.
it's
It
you.
says, "Dear Mr. Poole."
Are you saying I'm being accused of being a spy?
Well,
Well-
no,
Great.
you're not. You're not. They thought they could reason with you, but
I love
obviously didn't.
I don't have anything to do with the editorial work of
You don't.
Scanner.
Keep saying that.
Yeah,
keep
keep saying
Wait,
that,
it's
please.
true. I have no
True, you're
idea.
right.
No, but
Oh.
seriously,
Yeah.
you need to
great.
make that really clear to these people.
That's why I'm like,
Yeah.
wow, you guys get an email and you're like, it's to you. I'm like,
The
I don't know
second
anything
time,
about it.
they sent two. This was the one after I asked them. First, they sent me an email saying to you actually, but me CC'd, Emily CC'd, and we did not obviously CC you on the email. We just sent it out from our Scanner account. So they created a new chain. That one basically said you are working with stolen documents from the Qatari government. I don't even know what they're talking about.
They said,
What?
yeah. I mean, I have it up, but
Go ahead.
It basically, they accused us of working with Qatari-backed hackers. Let's see. Okay.
Is that
so-
it?
Hang on. It
Well,
says.
well, it's a very long letter.
It is a long letter, but I'll cut to the chase. As a result, we have reasons to suspect you are in direct contact and receiving stolen and potentially doctored materials from individuals directly involved with the Qatari-sponsored hackers. As an example of the pair relying on these sources, the suggestion that any sales were made to Nigeria, as you suggest in your questions, is false. So people should go watch the video and see like what we're
Is
actually.
he talking about me?
No,
You
he's
sh-
saying that
No,
we.
I mean I don't know. Were you
was
working with
addressed to
Qatari
me.
hackers?
I mean,
No. He said it was addressed to me. I'm like, what?
It is addressed to you, but
Yeah, well, I don't know why.
that's the thing. I think they're trying to get you to kill the
yeah,
story.
they're
So
trying to get you to
Oh,
kill
that'll
the
never
story.
happen.
Oh, he's not going to.
So-
I'll give the story more money
Okay,
if you try
well-
and do that.
Anyway,
Yeah.
so this is verifiably untrue. The fact that we're in direct contact
Yeah,
with
what?
Qatari-sponsored hackers.
There's nothing to do with it.
Sounds pretty cool.
We can get our things without hackers.
Yeah, we don't need
That's the
hackers,
thing. We're learning a lot of new skills, by
That's
the way. And I
exciting.
think that's why they think we're
We learned to
intelligence.
code.
Did you
Yeah.
know?
You know, this is, I'll tell you, this is a big problem probably for international elites dealing with like gutter crust like me from the south side of Chicago, who's like,
crust.
I don't know what you're talking about, dude. You know, like you can't email me and send me these things thinking that I'm gonna do anything about what you guys.
Well,
are
you won't
working on.
even. Sorry, you won't even see it.
Well, I know I know they sent the emails,
Uh-huh.
and I just immediately just click it and close it.
And delete
I'm
it?
like, I don't
Right.
care. I'm not going to read it. There's
Burn it.
nothing.
You hear that, Steptoe? Don't
That's
waste
right.
your time.
Don't waste
your
your
time
time
on
on
Send
Tim,
stuff
man.
to Tim, yeah.
Because I didn't even know what you guys were working on.
And
I'm
you
just
didn't?
like,
Yeah, that's,
No,
oh,
that's
we
by
didn't tell anyone.
design.
oh, those
Yeah.
crazy
Those
crazy
kids.
kids getting accused of being spies again.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, you want to read that part of the next
Oh, yeah.
letter? So
So
this
do-
was our election
yeah.
day, by the way.
This was the election day letter. That was the first.
I
That
was-
was the first one?
Hey, how
I
you
was
doing
eating,
letter?
I was eating cake on election day.
We were sending, well, the day before we sent very specific, because they told us we were vague. I said, I just want to talk to you about Nigeria. I didn't email Steptoe. I emailed Brody and his wife, and I had already tweeted at them documents. And I'm like, are these real? Are these fake? Please help. And no response. I get a response from Steptoe. Emily read from it. She CC'd. Then we get this response. Dear Mr. Poole, this, I don't know how they keep doing this. And this time they took Emily off, which
Yeah,
she
they
was not
did.
happy about.
No,
but
I was not.
she told them she wasn't happy. But the firm represents Elliot. This firm represents Elliot Brody, which we know, which your agents have disclosed is the subject of a quote, scare quote, story being prepared for publication on your YouTube channel. Your agent, which is me, proposes to make outlandish accusations unsupported by fact or law.
Outlandish.
And if you read the indictment, the summary of what happened with Brody, it's to a T what we were already looking at. It's crazy. We write again today to demand that you cease and dismiss your unlawful harassment of and threatening behavior toward Mr. Brody, his public relations agent Nathan Miller, and his associates. Your employees and agents have employed intimidating and unlawful tactics in what you purport to be a reporting operation, including the illegal taping of conversations with Mr. Miller and use of hacked materials and illegally taped conversations that you propose to disclose with untruthful commentary. This conduct makes you clear that you are not a legitimate media organization, but rather agents for hire masquerading as media.
Oh, agents for hire.
snap.
That's not as cool.
That's not.
Ah,
No,
boo.
It's mercenary.
Mercenary.
We
I like
will
that.
be contacting YouTube to seek removal of any content about Mr. Brody produced by your organization.
Oh, interesting.
This might get
That'll be fun.
removed. Let's
So
see.
let's see if it's
Yeah.
still up,
To
actually.
begin, your ostensible editor-reporter, Rocco Castoro, expressed surprise that his calls and emails to me and my law firm were returned by Nathan Miller, even though in your signature you've got a number and an email, and I have I've already emailed Mr. Brody about the questions. I didn't hear back from anyone. I'm recording. I'm recording.
Why
this
is he? Why is he emailing? Like, what is it? What?
I don't know.
Because it's so weird.
Because he told us in the first email that we had documents that have not been reported on, or that no one other reporter has
So
been
these
in
documents
possession
exist.
What sounds
real.
like the most pressing thing
You think.
is that
We know the ones.
there are compromised people all over the U.S.
of. Yes.
in like what levels of government in
Yes.
industries.
Hollywood, government, media.
Public-private sector.
I mean, it makes sense, but like, who are they? Who are
So
they?
I'll put it this way: I've had about 10 individuals, some of them very high-powered, since I've left Vice, do things that were very, very inexplicable. And I've been called a conspiracy theorist all my life. Well, I get to maybe perhaps prove that some of these individuals were doing things that were very weird, and I have documentation over the years. And imagine someone like me having proof that you tried to do something tricky with me.
So you guys know about like the accusations against Epstein, like what he was doing with the island, basically filming people and then being like, guess
Mail,
what?
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden
Sure.
they started buying them.
That's nothing new. Yeah.
Right. Is this something similar? Like you got a bunch of really wealthy, powerful people and people in industry.
No, it's more like you took dirty money and we didn't tell you. It's the same in that like
interesting.
it's Epstein could you film you with just a girl that looked underage and leverage that against you, or he could
Right.
procure. It goes all you're radioactive at that point. Right?
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
So what does that mean for this country?
It's very scary, and it's something people need to start talking about and figuring out amongst themselves. If there's anything we can unite over, it's like foreign influence should not be anywhere near us in this regard, and the scale is so big, it's too big to fail.
Does it impact our elections?
Yes, for certain. I don't think it impacts voting machines, and I don't think it results in it's very carefully crafted. Because again, it's not, and in the U.S. has done studies on this that no one, including the media, talks about Chinese-Russia relations for cybercrime, which makes sense. Why wouldn't they collaborate on cybercrime?
Right.
Makes no, why wouldn't they? So people need to start looking at it through an international lens versus a domestic lens.
So what you're saying is that Russia interfered I'm just kidding.
No,
Oh my God.
no.
No, not quite.
So, to what degree does it affect the elections? Is it direct? Is it indirect? Are they like
Mind crimes is the best way I'd put
mind crimes?
it. Yeah, I don't have a word for it.
Like what is that? What
like
is-
Orwellian, right?
It's
No, but, like, what are they
you have
doing?
to realize like they've been playing a long game, and it's not something they're just going to swoop in like before the election or even be like, oh, we're gonna Another thing I keep seeing is like, oh well, these machines use Chinese parts, and it's like you're looking in the wrong direction.
Do you know what a sea turtle attack is? Have you heard of this?
No.
It's when I put something on your server. It could be an Amazon server, so a legitimate server, that then the server is tricked into thinking is legitimate. Okay, so it could be a certificate that I put on some site I use to host fake news, incendiary content, right? That you click on from Facebook, and then it launches a back-end JavaScript application or something like that infects your machine with something, and that could do whatever, right? That is, think about that. That's not political. That's chaotic. The point of that is to cause chaos, to undermine, the institutions like the free press in America, which is the only place that you can actually check these things in the way that we can. And I get sued. Even England, you get sued for this.
I feel like our institutions kind of undermine themselves, man.
They do.
Yeah.
They do.
Sure.
And is it because of a long game, a long con manipulating, or
think about it this way: countries that have no repercussions for, if I went and tried to hack a bunch of servers in an allied country, I'd probably go to jail, right? If someone goes and does that in Russia to the U.S., they like have a party. It's funny, and I don't blame them. I'm like, cool, like I get it.
That was the Syrian Electronic Army stuff that we had covered way back when.
Yeah. It's it's the same stuff, but it happens here. It's been happening from people that are thirsty, people that want clout, and that aren't legitimate in their enterprise. And what I mean by that is, I don't want to point anybody out right now, but there's just a lot of disingenuous people masquerading as journalists and hiding behind shield walls. I'll put it that way.
Interesting.
Yeah. And it's really sad. And it's so crazy because it's like someone that you might have a gut feeling is doing that. The minute you start scraping their servers and stuff, you're like, oh my God, it's like so much worse than I thought.
Yeah.
What have we've been working on Maltego, which is a cool program.
Yeah. No, we're it's not just Maltego, but we're using a lot of tools.
What is that?
Maltego is actually it's you can plug in. We've mostly been using it to look at name servers, domains, and all of the things.
Tool.
Yeah, it's an investigative tool, and you can pretty much run transforms on these entities in order to expand their connections and dig deeper into those things. So, I don't know if you have an example you want to use, but
I mean, so you can type in a URL, right? And it will literally kind of mine there's all these plugins you can use. It's kind of like Pro Tools. You've used Pro Tools or something like that, but I can put in malware plugins. And they're all, it's expensive. You have to actually get a license. You have to give them your ID. They don't want bad actors using this because you can use these tools to kind of create networks that are like cyber criminal networks. And actually, once we started working with 12 Security, we got introduced to some other signals intelligence former operatives, but they run their own businesses now out of Australia, like Five Eyes people. And one of them said to us, we believe that you found the largest cyber syndicate of criminals in history. And we're like, whatever, dude. And we're just blowing through it. But now I would have to say we have definitely found URLs that are in Cyrillic, which should not happen, and
Chinese
and
characters.
Mandarin, which should not happen.
Yeah.
But it shouldn't happen at all. What do you mean?
No, it's not supposed to.
It's not.
It's corrupted.
Yeah. It's weird. I mean, we'll get to that
it's
in
technical stuff,
one of our
but-
episodes eventually.
Like URLs can't have
We found URLs that are like Obama is the N-word .gov.
What?
.gov.
.gov.
What?
The .gov domain, and the Pentagon announced this after we found it.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What?
James Comey for prison .gov. It's all hyphenated. So the minute, I don't know what happened.
But
We don't
.govs
know.
are.
We don't know what
Well, so
happened.
to clarify, but for those that don't understand, .govs you can't get those.
No, you can't just get a .gov.
Yeah. So
governmental.
somebody.
Yeah.
Someone's compromised it. Okay.
Wow.
And it happened right after, not before the inauguration,
Holy.
but after the election. We're talking day. There's even, what's his name?
Wait. 2016, 2020 election.
Oh, the
2016.
meme? Are you talking about the meme?
Dunkula?
Dankula.
What's
Oh,
his name?
yeah. You know
Count
the
Dankula?
traps are gay meme?
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
There's one of the .gov.
Trapsargay.gov.
Yeah, yeah.
No way.
Did he do it? What's going on?
No,
No,
of course he didn't do it.
How could he possibly
But
do
wait,
that?
someone
I'm
made
joking.
that
He's not even
.gov.
American.
Yeah, you can look it
Wow.
up. You can look it up. Oh, they've probably taken him down by now. We
Yeah.
on our
insane.
Twitter we have like a screenshot.
Yeah,
of
I
it.
was looking for this shot. but I
When
can't
did
find
this
it.
happen? This happened in 2016.
Yes, 2015.
2015.
Wow.
End of 2015. If
Yeah, I
you
don't
look
think-
at the dates and when they were created, it was within the transition period. So kind of like right now, of the election.
Interesting.
It was fundamentally our system. Been
Well, so that's 2017, the transition period.
Hold on.
No,
I'm
no,
going to pull
I'm
it up
sorry.
real quick so I
I'm
can get
wrong.
this right.
Yes,
Get it
you're
Here,
right.
here,
26.
hold
I'm
on,
getting
hold
this
on,
wrong.
Hold on.
2016
End of
during the
2016.
transition period.
Yeah.
So like December
November.
2016.
It was like what was election day 2016? What was the date?
Ninth.
20.
Ninth. It
So it
was
was like
ninth.
the
Oh, yeah.
10th and the 11th.
It was today,
and
4
12th.
years ago.
And then more down the road, but they're the weirdest things. And they're all hyphenated. We've heard that if there's hyphens in your domain,
Strange.
that means it's basically, honeypot domain, Chinese domain.
Some
Some of them, which is kind of true, not really true.
I gotta say, man,
This is crazy.
it's hard to piece together. Like, I would say the biggest thing I've taken so far, which I've said, is that they're compromised individuals.
Yes.
Yes.
But
Sure.
then hearing that governments are compromised and people are in the take, and there's some Chinese billionaire.
That's what the documents say. We
It's
don't say
like
anything.
I feel kind of like I'm looking at Charlie Day with
Sure,
this
sure,
Pepe
sure.
Sylvia
No,
thing,
okay.
and I'm like, what is this?
So I think people need to, and a lot of
if
people
we got
I
someone
know-
arrested, would you believe us?
Well, I'm not saying I don't believe you. I'm just saying you've just told me like.
And I don't
my
mean
God,
tell. I mean,
map,
our
yeah.
reporting got someone arrested.
Yeah, exactly.
you already did.
Gosh.
No, I'm saying if we did.
Well, what the point I'm making is, if you came to me and said, we found a network of compromised individuals, this list of potential, individuals who are compromised, I'd be like, wow, who's doing it? You say it's not necessarily China, but it's.
There's deposition that shows people like. Emily knows a little bit more about that.
Oh yeah, which deposition?
Well, so-
Waller.
Okay, yeah.
No,
But
we
which
got.
part?
You have to. It's not an easy thing to explain.
So-
I mean,
so-
you know Brittany Kaiser, right? You used
Yes.
to live with Brittany, so
Yes.
she could explain this to you very easily because she understands data. And we think that like people that were working for Cambridge and people that were working for other places like that, that's obviously continued. It's not going to go away. And we're not
yeah.
saying it's not related just to elections. It's related to behavioral stuff, psychographics, figuring people out. And people like Waller, who are longtime propagandists, or at least they understand propaganda,
Yeah.
and have participated in it.
Yeah, I
think.
mean, he pretty much admits to
Yeah.
helping run an amplification
So
network.
who's that?
J. Michael Waller is somebody that we actually interviewed on Subverse in the early days. He's a propaganda expert.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you remember him. He was,
of course.
Yeah.
Propaganda expert explaining how it all works.
Yes, yes.
That was actually at
the hoaxed screening.
that was a Cernovich event.
Exactly.
That's really funny.
So you should keep that in mind.
Interesting.
Well, I don't know what you're saying about Mike Cernovich though.
No. I'm
Mind.
just saying, like, he I believe he was, he was in hoaxed, right?
Who?
Waller was.
Yeah, I think so.
And so he's admitted in deposition to feeding these amplification networks.
Where are the amplification networks?
Huh?
Like whose amplification networks?
Well, so that's part of an investigation that we're doing.
So, so when you tell me you got a bunch of
You want to see a
people-
picture of one?
No. I need to understand what the elevator pitch is to what all this is.
Really simple. People that have largely associated with what some may call the alt-right have run a series of botnets to amplify false stories that are disingenuous and
For what
possibly, I don't know, money, like monetization, clout.
Who's directing it?
I don't think anybody's directing. I think there's malware as a platform, if you will, like malware OS, if you will, that sits on these servers and does various things. And there's different ways you can kind of trim that or manipulate it. But there's certainly coordination. So I guess what I'm saying is the call's coming from inside the room.
So you're saying that there are personalities that have access to these amplification
Yes.
networks
You know
for
some. Like,
for clout and for wealth.
yes.
And how does that relate to China?
Well, if the tools that they were given to do it come
Came
from
from
there,
China.
That's the edge of the law. I don't know. I'm not
But
a
you
lawyer.
have to also remember
It's
there are
disingenuous.
multiple amplification networks. Some of them overlap, and some of them have different sources as far as like who's feeding them, who's running them, who's paying them. So not everyone is being paid. Some people are doing it just for clout, just for clicks, just for follows and stuff.
Or
like
because they want to support a president?
Could be.
that. Sure.
Yeah, that's disingenuous.
It
That's
is.
We're gonna laugh at you and say you're not a real journalist,
Sure.
and hopefully, like,
Wait.
someone's gonna sue you.
Well,
I
so-
don't know.
These are journalists?
Some of them, yes, many of them are calling. Well, they seem to be in flux. It depends on what day of the week.
Yeah,
it is.
exactly.
Yeah. They're hiding behind shield laws. That's my
Exactly.
point. No one wants to prosecute a journalist because it's messy.
Exactly.
kidding.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But so I'm trying to figure out what's breaking the law.
We didn't say it was breaking the law. We just said we're not lawyers, but we will roundly accuse them of being disingenuous and
Sure.
fraudulent and like possibly like there's a class action suit that could happen with their followers. That's for sure. It's a
Like they
civil law
know
thing.
they're lying, and you know they know they're lying.
We can prove it.
Interesting. And
Yeah.
so, are you saying Mike Cernovich straight up?
No, we're
No,
not
we're
saying
not
that.
saying
Oh,
that.
okay.
We're saying there's interesting things happening on his back end on his site. Yeah. We're
On
tracing,
his website.
We are tracing crypto from a variety of sources now, and we will be able to tell exactly where that came from.
So, how does that relate to compromised individuals at Harvard or with
Well,
China?
you asked how the amplification networks.
Right.
Yeah.
No, I mean, not all of these things are directly connected. They do have lots of tangents that overlap.
Data is how. they
Data
connect.
is how it connects.
Yeah.
Who's using the data, who's collecting the data, what they're doing with the data, that overlaps in a lot of ways.
And Guo Wengui seems to more and more connect to every bit of this. Like, for instance, Bannon, when he left the administration, he visited the UAE. right? I've been told several different things. I've been told it was concerning Khashoggi. That was way before we know what happened. I've been told that it was in the documents, it talks about monies that was owed by Malaysia to the AE that China was taking care of. But I know that he was summoned. I know that he visited there. And I know that Guo was brought up, but in the context of more blackmail, let's say, regarding the royal court there. That's at least what I've been told from a source. I'm trying to verify that. Obviously, these people don't want to talk to me, and that's how I know there's some real big things to talk about here. And we're getting threatened, So, what's the problem? My point is, are they breaking the law? Who cares? They always talk about how stupid and shitty the mainstream media is. Maybe we should, we're trying to just tell the truth and report so that we're not doing it politically.
It just sounds like the way you're framing it, everything's broken.
It is. The internet's broken.
Yeah,
the
that's
kind of what
broken.
it looks like.
That's
Yeah.
what it boils down to.
That's what Timothy Berners-Lee has been saying for years, is that the DNS, the underpinnings of the internet, the way that a domain that's Timcast resolves to a server and then other URLs are on that server, it's fundamentally broken. And it is.
It sounds like everything's broken. The media's broken.
Everything. Yeah.
Politics
Independent
is
media,
broken.
politics is broken.
Hollywood's broken.
Mhm.
Yeah, Hollywood.
the heck?
So we
Harvard.
have an idea of instead of selling open source intelligence to foreign governments, we're going to raise money to make our own platform so we can have people subscribe like Netflix, so housewives in Minnesota can help solve international relations schemes.
Interesting.
How?
True crime's the #1 genre.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Oh, so
You're
yeah,
right.
right. So
They can
doing like a
participate.
journalism show and reaching out
yeah,
for
think of it
crowdsourced
as like,
support.
yeah,
That's
interactive.
kind of cool.
With
Interactive
editorial
true crime.
levels, so it's like Reddit, but there's editorial oversight. Then we obviously aren't reporting on anything that hasn't been vetted, but we'll have raw data sets and they can help sort it out.
So you're mentioning all of these things. I think, like I mentioned, not the fifth time, the thing that sticks out the most is that there are people in this country who are compromised.
Yes.
And how does that it's a different story you're saying to
No,
the-
it's the same story.
No, it's the same
data.
story. But
Yeah.
that, like you said, it's so complicated. You have to break it down into smaller parts.
Mm-hmm.
And another thing is I know we used to do pretty much daily videos, and that was basically a meat grinder. We shouldn't be doing
Right.
that, which is why we're taking the time to go
Right,
the
exactly.
investigative route, and people, I hope, understand and appreciate that. So
And it'll be more regular. We went to Wyoming recently to investigate shell companies that are associated with some of these people.
yes,
This, I think, requires a written article, some
Oh.
kind of visualization.
No.
So,
Well-
you'll see.
because I don't know who this Guai, what's his name?
Guo
Guo
Wingui.
Wingui.
You've talked about
Like-
him on your videos.
Me?
Yeah.
I don't think so.
in one of your videos, you used a Daily Mail article about him.
Yeah, I think it briefly mentioned that he was like.
I know you didn't want us to talk about it.
I don't, wait, what?
Well, that's what Libya said.
No,
No, not even
Libya?
close. Don't
Libya.
listen to-
Libya
listen
said?
to him.
Well, she said that. I'm sorry. I was thinking about that.
No, it
that-
was Ian. Ian told me that you
that
didn't want to talk
Pinochet
about it.
tweeted
because-
it.
Talk about what?
About Guo.
No, I didn't. I never said that.
I'm so confused. I've
Yeah,
never
I don't know
heard
what
Tim
you're
talk
talking
about that ever.
Oh,
I've never told
then
anyone.
we're wrong.
I've never told
We're
anybody.
wrong. We're wrong.
The only thing I've told people not to talk about is I say swear if you want because YouTube deranks videos if you swear.
I'm sorry that we did that.
That's
And-
all
that
it
was
is.
a slip
Don't
of
worry
the
about
tongue.
it.
And the surprising thing is that YouTube actually allows racial slurs so long as they're in the context of an educational descriptor.
Weird,
but we
right?
don't want those either.
Nope.
Other than that, you pull out documents talking about Mike Cernovich. I know the guy.
Yeah.
And
We should ask him. Will you ask him?
Yeah, I'll ask him.
Yeah, if we have
Definitely
him
like
on.
if you've got documents and you've got something to say, I'm,
I'm
not going to
just
tell you to talk
curious.
about
Heck
it.
yeah.
Well, I mean, we have checks that are from, well, I'm not going to, we'll talk about that in a second, but, and some of this is based off people that, I'm not saying it's definitive. I'm saying we have a lot of questions, and this is separate from us looking at the servers, which I have a very, very, a lot of concerns, very big concerns about.
When I hear about amplification networks, that sounds like Occupy Wall Street stuff.
Oh, yeah,
to me.
well, that's the thing is I think you know a lot about this stuff. That Brittany Kaiser, these people, they all participate in this. I mean, they should be able to tell us exactly what went down. I mean, she's been leaking stuff left and right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For those that don't know, Brittany Kaiser is the whistleblower from Cambridge Analytica.
I don't know about that, but
What's up?
I said the media's called her that, but I mean,
Yeah.
she's still working with certain people.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I guess.
No, for sure. Yeah,
What tangled
You know
webs,
for sure?
guys?
I think so. Other people know for sure.
We have suspicions.
Yeah, other people know for sure.
When I hear about amplification networks, I'm kind of like, look, man, if it falls into the realm of free speech and you've got someone who's dumb spreading around dumb things, I don't know what I'm supposed to what are we supposed to do about
Well,
that?
can smart people then embarrass them publicly and troll them into complete
course, but
embarrassment
that's-
and
but
take their
yeah.
money? Like John McAfee did tell me one thing that held up. You don't make money, you take money. So if I take their money on freedom of speech and call them out, is that wrong?
How do you take their money? What do you mean?
I defund them. like, defund the police. We'll defund. I don't care about that. I'm going to defund the trolls. I can out troll them. I know I can. I'll prove it.
Where does the money come from? Who's funding it?
We're going to find out.
We're finding out.
Yeah.
What if it's from foreign actors? Then what?
It's then they got to register depending on the extent to which.
What if they
didn't?
didn't? Should they go to jail?
They should no. You tell them to register as foreign agents, and then
And if they don't,
and they shouldn't be allowed to do what they're doing.
Well, look,
I mean, they can.
You've got the BBC, you've got Sputnik, you've got RT, you've got Al Jazeera,
Voice of America. Yeah.
Yeah, you've got all of these different media outlets putting out their perspective, their propaganda, their governments pay for it.
What's our perspective, though? We don't like criminals. Like, that's a good perspective to have.
I would think so. Yeah.
Right. So I guess the issue is,
or disingenuous actors. Yeah.
Are you just going after people because you think they put out?
No, we're doing an
stuff?
investigation,
No,
and we look at stuff, and we're like, whoa, that's connected to that. What? That's connected to that.
Why is that connected to that?
yeah, no, it's all information that people should be aware of.
And then people start leaking us tons of stuff. Is what happens.
Yeah.
So then what? what?
Well, hopefully, the
then you
end
make
game
a
here
pizza pie.
Yeah.
give people more information so they can be informed on what to believe and like where to get their information. Like they shouldn't, if people want to stay in an echo chamber, I guess that's their prerogative.
They do.
That's
They
fine.
do. Yeah.
But let them know that that's what they're doing. Some people don't know that's what they're doing.
But why are you trying to tell your audience what they want? Like, I think you're underestimating people.
No, I try to tell people all the time to make sure they watch other people, and
Sure.
I actually they yell at me because I only ever shout out leftist YouTubers.
You got to quit using Daily Mail, by the way. That's the
No, you guys are
terrible
wrong.
story. I was they wanted me to be the editor-in-chief at Daily Mail.
Oh.
I
we have
used that
stop
to
using that.
leverage Rolling Stone for an offer that I leveraged against Vice. That's
troublemaker.
But I had no intention of working at Daily. I mean, they're literal launderers of filth. And
So I use
you know.
NewsGuard, which is a third-party rating agency, right? So there's only a few exceptions I would use for what I would, Project Veritas is one of them,
Not
and
verified,
they're not verified. But then basically, unless it's a bit of like opinion commentary, Daily Wire, for instance, they're not certified. Daily Mail is, and what ends up happening is if I pull up a story from The Hill, and then I pull up a story from Fox and CNN, all of that same context and cited information is on the Daily Mail. So what ends up happening is when I go through everything, I end
They
up
bring it
choosing what has
together.
the most comprehensive source.
They
and
do
it
an
tends to be,
They do aggregate. I was talking about their original reporting, I guess, more than their aggregate stuff. That
that's
makes sense. I get that.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm just saying though, at the same time, AP or Reuters or AFP, I don't see much bias in the reporting. I guess there could be angles that are biased, and individual reporters are individual reporters. But
it's tough. I know very few reporters left. When I read stuff all the time, you see.
But because these bad actors are defunding journalism in a lot of ways, that's another problem I have professionally.
Really?
Yeah.
They're not defunding themselves?
But how are they getting media defunded?
No, defunded. Like because they're committing ad fraud and click fraud. That ad fraud and click fraud could be it's based off incendiary content that a lot of times is not true, or it's a disingenuous angle that has nothing to do. You hit the nail on the head. If you're going to say, I'm doing this for X, Y, and Z, I'm doing this for Julian Assange, or I'm doing this for this person, but your real intention is to elect the president, then I'm going to scrape your servers, call you a liar, and roundly embarrass you in public, because I think it's funny, and that's my freedom of speech. And people like to watch other people get embarrassed, so I'll probably make some money off of it, too. Yeah.
So
it's my prerogative,
So where do you think all this goes? It sounds like you have more than one story.
We have about 20.
Yeah.
And we have several other media partners.
Well, I want to see this list of compromised people be confirmed.
We're not going to show that to anyone until we're confirmed.
Exactly.
Right. But I mean, and that's a national security issue.
It is, and we're
Which is why we have to be responsible with like what we're doing with it and verifying it. And
in fact, that's who we go to verify it. Once we're also reporters, and we can use sources. The Supreme Court's held it up.
Because what if you go to the government with it? And,
No, that's not the Pentagon
get
papers.
Somebody who's,
How do you know that?
compromised?
Yeah, exactly. Like
That's a good question. Yeah.
Yeah. So if it sounds like everything's broken,
you
tons of people are compromised.
you go to a
everyone's lying.
What you do is you create a situation where you go to a partner of the U.S., one of the Five Eyes nations, and you make sure that each step, because it's not just our problem, that each step of that is being handled with a backstop that makes sure that kink gets scuttled. Because I do think the other set of documents we have from 1MDB, if they are not, one of these things where it's a mixture of altered and real documents, which we are totally considering. That's why we're methodically going through each one. Because either way, it's a national security issue, right? We have to get to the bottom of it.
How do you know you're not useful idiots?
Well, we know that this document in particular because we went and visited a munitions salesman, and he said, I don't know where they got this document. I don't know. This is a former intelligence agent that is very well respected throughout the Pentagon community, and actually will screw his business up if it finds out that these people, a middleman, got it and put brokerage fees. And then, do you really think that people should be getting in the middle of arms sales? No, they shouldn't.
Well, I mean, often journalists will be used as a weapon by bad actors.
Yes.
So that's
Yeah.
actually a really good
Yeah,
point,
that's
and
a
I
really
want
good
to talk
point.
about that real quick
That's a
because
great point.
Elliot Brody sent very similar legal threats back in 2018 to a number of outlets who were reporting on a totally separate trove of documents. And in their first letter to us, I think they expected that we had that same stack of documents because it was I talked to an AP reporter who also worked on the story and received the same legal threats and said, yep, that was the same line, blah, blah, blah. And then he told me a little bit about what was in his documents, and I thought, wow, that's strange. We have nothing that talks about that in our stack. So yes, a lot of other the accusation was made towards other outlets back in 2018 that they were receiving doctored materials and reporting off of those. However, they did their best to, at least AP did their best to verify a lot of those, and they reported based on what they could verify, which I think is responsible.
And they were never sued.
Sued.
All right. Well, let me ask you guys something. Glenn Greenwald quit the Intercept.
It's a baby.
He co-founded it. You say what?
He's a baby.
He's a baby?
He cried.
Why do you say that?
Because people get edited. I was an editor-in-chief. You get edited.
Did you read what he wrote?
Yeah, I did.
He said that when they would write anti-Trump stuff, there would be no editing and no fact-checking. And when he tried to write about Biden, they would give him the full gauntlet.
He's not. That's not the only weird thing he's done in a while. Where are the Snowden archives? Why were they not maintained?
For sure.
What happened with Reality Winner? He could get to the bottom of that. What happened?
I think the issue
don't
is he started the
care.
company and then he gave
I
control
tweeted
up.
at him and I said, I'm not going to read this until Reality Winner and Jeremy Hammond and other people are out of jail and they can fucking tell their side of the story, right? I don't care what he said because it's disingenuous.
So what about Matt Taibbi?
Fine. Matt Taibbi seems. I mean, I love The Exiled.
So you have these journalists who have quit saying that the media is corrupt.
Yep.
Protecting a political party.
Well, there's certain. I mean, is everyone who does that going to be automatically a hero? No, there's going to be people on both
I'm not
sides.
saying they're heroes. I'm saying we've got it seems like the entirety of the media functioning as I shouldn't say entirety. I'll be very specific. We have a large portion of high-profile individuals, particularly at the New York Times and other outlets, that are in the bag for a political ideology.
I think people need to start looking at reporters as individuals.
Absolutely,
rather than,
100%.
Yeah.
Yes,
Which is what
I've
you're
been
doing.
actually preaching that for a while, just because I'll use Hong Kong as an example because SCMP, which takes a lot of money from Alibaba and China ties, of course. So individual reporters who were working on who were covering the Hong Kong protests did amazing work. However, unfortunately, when their work came out the other end and was edited, it didn't always reflect what the reporters were doing. So you have to, I think, look at individual reporters, their work, and what their interests are, or if they get paid by certain foreign actors.
For sure, but like Barry Weiss quits the New York Times, saying that it's basically become an ideological woke fest. We got more Slack leaks today from New York Mag that they're demanding of other employees, which side are you on? They said we're at the barricades of change or something. The people in these news organizations are literally trying to enact some kind of political agenda. And I'm not saying literally every single one, because I use this reporting all day as well. But you have to fight through. It's like you're walking through the weeds with a machete, trying to figure out where the real news
It's
is.
happening on both the right and the left.
Yeah, you have to be.
But the right doesn't have that kind of apparatus.
You have to be a responsible adult. That's what you have to be. Too big, too bad.
Yeah, no, I
World's
think
a complicated place.
people need to.
So when Tom Cotton publishes an article about how the military needs to be activated and go in and take care of some of this rioting, and the news boardroom throws a freaking fit,
I don't read opinion columns, so I don't know.
That's
what that
not
is.
news.
Yeah.
that's something that needs to be.
cares?
It's something that needs to be said. He has a right to say it.
Sure,
and
he
that's
can
why it's
post
in
it
the
on his
opinion. Yeah.
Twitter or whatever.
Okay.
I mean, who cares? The editorial, just like Facebook and Twitter need to decide: are you a platform or a publisher?
So are you guys okay with the editorial room
No,
just
no, I'm
melting
not.
down and
I'm
having
not.
a
I don't-
fit?
but I don't
'Cause
care.
They're supposed to be being adults. They're supposed
He's
to
a
be seeing
powerful
beyond black
person.
and
He can
white.
find another outlet. Deal with it. I've been rejected too. And I've had stories completely
So-
censored, and I'm not complaining about it because I
What-
just do the story.
Yeah, yeah.
What are we supposed to do right now when journalists are just activists?
I don't know. Are you an activist?
Oh, definitely. In a
Well-
lot of ways.
Then why do you call yourself a journalist?
Because you can be both.
No, you can't. You can perform journalism. You can't be a reporter and.
It's literally defined as advocacy journalism. So I would consider myself, as I always have in many aspects, information activist.
What's your metric for success?
Getting out the best understanding of what's going on.
Okay.
So back in the day with like Occupy Wall Street, before Occupy, my involvement was based on me being a part of information activist hacker crews. So these people didn't consider themselves journalists, but news organizations called them journalists. They called themselves jokingly hacktivernalists as like a joke of mashing it all together. Information activism was let the transparency, give people the information, let them know, and let the decentralized network of individuals decide.
I don't agree with that, but yeah.
We have something very, very different in today's media where we actively and I dealt with this surprisingly not at Vice for the most part, but at Fusion, for instance. Lie.
ABC.
Lie to the public.
ABC.
Exactly. Tell the audience what they want to hear. We want to make money.
There you go, right?
But now you have, here's what I see happening. News organizations were dying. Have you noticed this? It's really interesting that all these companies, even social media companies, were bleeding users, losing money, and then Trump got elected. And then all of a sudden, Twitter started gaining users, and the media started writing about him all day, every day, nonstop. The most absurd stories about the alt-right started popping up, and they started making more money.
True.
They found a way to milk revenue.
Have you seen much field reporting in the past few years?
Absolutely not.
In the past year, you haven't seen anything.
None.
It's impossible.
And this is something I coined the CNN challenge. I have 2 videos on my Instagram where you turn on Fox News when a news story breaks, and then turn on CNN, and guess what? Guess what Fox News is talking about? Fox News is talking about
watch
Iran.
Al Jazeera and ignore both. Like that's my.
Well, you watch Al Jazeera, you get Qatar's perspective.
Well, you do, but for everything that's not Qatar, it's going to be at least there's some on the ground reporting. No one's going to Goma from Fox or CNN, okay? And I'm interested in that. Now, do I have to then filter that through my own adult lens of being an adult person that has to discern? They have agendas. Everyone might have an agenda. I have my own biases and things. Yes, you do. That's your responsibility. I'm not going to spoon feed you, or else you're going to end up with a divided country that's literally divided over like 2 or 3 issues, and they could not tell you what they want. They couldn't tell you. The average person could not tell you what's going to make them happy.
I agree with that.
Yeah.
But I think
that's their fault. That's not anyone else's fault. That's their fault. They're adults, and they need to come to terms with that.
But you can probably guess my immediate bias is going to say that's predominantly an element of the default liberal or the left.
I don't know. I don't look at the term. I don't look at the world in those terms. I look at the world through an international relations lens. There's a great book called "The Tragedy of Great Power Politics." It'll explain to you how the world works. It's a neocon Bible, actually. I'm not a neocon, but it tells you, particularly in regards to China and the big threat of the sleeping giant, as they called it, how international nation states, how self-interest. So, what's good for me and what's good for my allies is what's going to motivate me. And the pursuit of hegemony, which is being the ultimate power of the world, bar none. That is what drives them. Now, that sounds a lot like what's going on with human beings right now. And I don't think that's a tenable way. Maybe it is. I don't know. We'll find out. But certainly all this violence in the streets and the 49 states landslide, that didn't happen. And that's nonsense.
Violence in the streets happened. They called the National Guard into Philly.
It didn't happen like it happens in other countries where there's true election interference, where people are getting shot at the polls. And people said that was going to happen. It didn't happen.
Yeah. Well, those people are nuts. So we've had 49 state landslides in the past. Only
when, like 1873 or something?
1988.
What?
Or was it 84? 84, sorry.
84,
88
yeah.
was Bush.
Well, 84, there you go.
1984.
Conspiracy.
Oh, yeah, that's
Orwellian.
funny. It was 84. It was the
yeah.
Reagan 49 state landslide. 1972 was Nixon. It happens when there's, and it wasn't absolute unity. It was just the states had slightly more people who all agreed with Reagan or Nixon.
Do you believe gerrymandering is an issue that affects elections?
Absolutely.
Okay.
It's complicated, though. So
It is.
One of the big things we got from this election was that the Republicans took more House legislatures, which means come in 2021, they're going to control redistricting, which is going to reshape the House at the federal level. The thing about gerrymandering is that it's often only ever talked about in a negative light. Why is this district shaped this way? And definitely there's a power battle between the Democrats and the Republicans. There's also a concern that if you just did everything as blocks, you would end up with extreme minority disrepresentation. Meaning, if you ever looked at the diagram for how they talk about gerrymandering, if you have 5 blocks and each block has 2 yellow and 3 green. Green controls everything. But that means 40% of your country has no representation at all. So with gerrymandering, you create some voice for the minority. Because we're a republic, it's not so simple as to say how it should or shouldn't be done.
Which plays into electoral college as well with what you're,
Right, which is, the electoral college, in my opinion, is extremely important.
But even Trump wanted to abolish that the first term.
Because Trump's a politician, and they all say these things. Whenever it's coming down to why they're going to lose, they'll create a reason for it.
But he didn't lose the first term.
Exactly, and then all of a sudden he's like, "Oh, well, those are the rules." Hillary Clinton played by the exact same rules. She just didn't think she was going to lose the blue wall.
She lost.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's it.
The Democrats believed that they had the blue wall states in the bag, and she didn't need to go there. And she lost them by razor-thin margins.
Wouldn't it be great to not have to think about any of that and just have a direct democracy?
No, absolutely not.
Why not?
Because I witnessed what happened in California when you don't have proportional representation based on natural resources. When in East Porterville, their well water was stripped away because San Diego and Los Angeles were able to vote away the water rights from smaller towns.
I live in Los Angeles. It's lovely. It's a great place to live.
Yeah, so it's easy for you to say when you live in Los Angeles and you've got 13 million people who vote against the 300,000.
There's a water problem. There's a lot of problems.
And you know what LA did? Mm-hmm. You voted to take the surface water from the poor migrants in the East.
I didn't vote for anything that was
I'm not saying I'm saying Los Angeles did this.
Sure.
In Los Angeles, the city said, we get the surface water. So the farmers said, how are we supposed to grow food?
Yeah.
So they started digging wells down thousands of feet. And all of the poor farmer families who did the labor that feed people in this country lost access to their own water, and they were given big tanks of dirty, non-potable water.
It's a very, very
hard
issue to navigate.
This is why the Electoral College, I believe, is important, because we've already gone through issues, and I've learned all about this when I was doing fundraising for nonprofit groups in Chicago to protect Lake Michigan. Several states were trying to sue the Great Lakes Coalition to take water from the Great Lakes, depleting them, and send them into areas that were experiencing drought, saying, we are one country, we have the right. That's not correct. I believe that's absolutely wrong. And Illinois should have its own representation to protect its interests, as should Michigan and Wisconsin and Ohio and Pennsylvania or other states that line the Great Lakes. Because these states have a coalition, along with Ontario, to manage the amount of water that the Great Lakes have, because if they use too much or pollute them, then it drains and it'll be gone forever. They need to make sure it keeps replenishing. Other states want that water. If we were going by direct popular vote, then Los Angeles, New York, and Chicago would dictate almost everything.
No, that's not true. We're talking about the presidential election. That's not true. I think direct democracy. Are you saying that direct democracy of one vote, one person, popular vote would
idea?
Would it result in only liberals winning? Is that what you're saying? I'm just trying to understand.
No, absolutely not.
Okay.
In fact, the National Popular Vote Coalition is one of the biggest mistakes California and Colorado are making. Right now, California is not going to give their electoral votes to a Republican.
Yeah.
By entering the coalition, they're creating the possibility they do.
But that's the deal that everyone have to make, right?
Right. I think it's a bad idea.
Okay.
So they can go forward with it, but I think ultimately you've got people who want some like global international cooperation. But think about how that works with the UN. The United States makes its own laws, and then we have international agreements and international cooperation on certain universal laws. Like you murder someone in the country, they're going to track you down. However, we might not have an extradition treaty with certain countries. The U.S. makes its own laws. The states make their own laws. The cities, the counties, etc. If we just got rid of all of that, then you end up having laws that make no sense for people in rural Montana compared to someone who lives in New York.
Well, I don't know. All I'll say is this, that I think that in the United States, people are about as well off as they've ever been in the grand scheme of things. I definitely think that politics has become a circus show in terms of how the media has covered it. And I think hopefully that will change in terms of you really did not see on the ground coverage. You did not see domestic coverage that explored issues like this because all the air was sucked out of the room. So if there's one thing that I hope happens is that improves. And now that the media has been essentially gutted,
Well, I think you guys got to do it.
Well, we could. We're not going to,
Look. One of the challenges with the stories that you're presenting is that you're actually investigating issues that are outside of this ridiculous culture war bubble.
Yeah.
And so a lot of people's whole world right now is the election just happened. Who's doing this? Who's doing that? Who's in my movie? And you guys are like, hey, we found like a network of people who might be compromised and like these manipulation or amplification networks. Most people don't hear about that because no matter what you turn on, you're getting the same world, And it's like you said, red and blue.
So when we go and
when you turn on my content, especially.
So let's say that when we like focus this laser beam towards journalists who are doing this compromised, then you're not going to hear those voices because either their handlers are going to pick them up and put them in a bag and take them somewhere, or they're going to get demonetized across platforms because they're committing advertising fraud. And that's how we plan to solve that. And I'll happen like this.
So what?
And we got control of the botnet, so that'll be fun.
You control the botnet?
We're going to get control of it. Yeah.
I mean, but these are illegally compromised computers. You can't do anything with that.
We can hand it over, and say, hey, yep, this works with a sysadmin that's registered.
Yeah.
We can do that.
So how about instead of talking about culture war stuff or like criticizing journalists who you don't think are doing a good job, you boost journalists who are?
So you guys are here.
That's fair enough.
The only reason I haven't actually like built an office building and put people in is because COVID happened, and now I don't know if you guys remember when I was looking at the building in New Jersey, that we had an actual building, and the plan was to bring in people and like do journalism. Congratulations, and walk away.
Well, you were talking about having Cassandra Fairbanks do fact checking, though. That's a little.
I wasn't talking about having Cassandra do fact checking.
Okay.
No, I'm friends with Cassandra, but
Pretty sure you were.
just like you said, I claimed Julian Assange told me.
You did.
No, I did
I wouldn't.
not.
I don't
dude.
make that shit
If
up.
if that had happened, that would have been like one of the biggest stories of my career. Maybe
That's
maybe
what I was. I was
maybe
like,
you,
whoops, maybe I miss.
see,
Maybe I
and you
misheard
said that wasn't true. No,
Yeah.
Cassandra's. I like Cassandra.
She
I think
is.
she's great. I think she's partisan, and I want to hire actual journalists and be like, go do journalism, and I don't care whatever it is you pull up. Tell me. I'm not going to tell you what you can or can't.
I mean,
pull up.
speaking of the water stuff, one of the first things we started investigating that COVID interrupted was about as apolitical as you get. Everyone's got to drink water, even if you don't like it. So even if you're drinking Coke all day. And it was about Poland Springs, which is the number one, at least I believe, it might have changed since the pandemic, probably would have gone up. Number one UPC scan in New York City, at least. It's one of the biggest bottled water brands in the world. And you've lived in New York,
Yeah.
You've seen it. It's the whatever that is, the Crystal River of New York and the Northeast. Well, it appears that a third of every bottle is pumped from a location that, at least visually, and we are looking into the scientific underpinnings, and we are looking into certain permits that don't seem to add up, or let's say that there seems to be more than one version of a permit at a state level. If you looked at this place within the 300-yard radius of this pump that pumps out, or this spring supposedly that pumps out 500,000 gallons a day of water, goes into about a third of every Poland Spring bottle is made of this water because they blend different sources together. It's literally got like a 1975 Chevy rotting into the dirt next to it. It's got like disgusting toilet cisterns.
Are you breaking more
broken
news
up.
right now?
Well, not yet. Wait till you see the video. we couldn't finish it because the congressional inquiries that were going to happen, and Canada in the midterm has kicked them out in terms of using any water sources, because you're right about that, that relationship that's there.
Yeah.
But the congressional inquiries have now been pushed because of COVID, because they couldn't come and, and do this in D.C. So I've got several whistleblowers that have given me about 20 years worth of documents that, if we're successful, result in the largest product recall I think that's ever happened.
Sounds like something that very few outlets are doing anything of.
Well, I've
'Cause
pitched it to several, and they, all of a sudden they love it, and then 2 months later they're like, "We don't have the resources," and you see Perrier ads.
some advertisements
Yeah,
pop up.
yeah,
There's some
yeah.
companies that
Yeah.
just they came into some money.
We
you
play
know?
the long game. I ask people a lot of questions that I already know the answers to. It's an old investigative tactic. They end up lying, and then I come back with the proof later. I'm like, "You lied." And then they try to worm out of it, and it's a fun game. And when you put it on camera and you put the whole process and it's transparent, no one can really leverage against you. And it's a new way of doing things that confuse people. They think, we're agents. I'll take that as a compliment.
So I'll give you my breakdown of everything I think is happening in media.
Sure.
The internet changed everything, obviously. But with social media algorithms, it created an opportunity for news organizations to be founded, built around one idea. So there was a period where we had one site, and I've mentioned this, many people who follow the show might have heard me say it. There was a website that did nothing but police brutality videos, and it was in the global top 500 websites. Like, how insane is that? People literally would go to this website just to watch this, as if they were addicted to watching cops beat people, but they hated the cops. Facebook was feeding this to people over and over and over again. It was the algorithm. It was shocking. It was angering, and people would click it. News outlets started getting venture funding. They were the more successful outlets.
Yes.
It was because they realized you could combine terms. You can combine police brutality with racism, with sexism, with bigotry, whatever. And it started to create this fractured worldview. The best example is Mike.com. When Mike.com started, they were like pro Ron Paul. pro-internet liberty.
Makes sense.
And then slowly became woke social justice. Why? Because the things that get the most shares have the most keywords, and so you could do racist, sexist cops,
And what do those
attack
things
Black
do?
Lives Matter. And what?
What are the most shares do? They make the most.
You make the most money.
Yeah.
So this created a network of news outlets, which also created an inversion, the counter to it, right? You created social justice and anti-SJW. And then you end up seeing news organizations compete with this. They all start failing. They start losing subscribers. Their ratings start going down because rage and tribalism was visceral to people.
The dish of the day.
Exactly. So then what does the New York Times do? Hire these people. We're losing money.
Yeah.
Hire them and write
That's
these
nice.
stories. And now we have activist news organizations. And then along comes some dude who worked with this guy at Vice who creates a YouTube channel and starts talking about his opinions and essentially creates something very, very similar. A partisan YouTube channel where I complain about Democrats and talk about my personal opinions and why I don't like one faction over the other. And then at a certain point, I was like, this is the entire problem.
Sure.
I'm a guy who likes talking about his opinions. And I read the news and I say, here's what I think.
But you gravitate towards the opinion pages of the news. You don't gravitate
That's not true at
the
all.
reporting. Well, I mean, what I'm saying is there's very valid reporting in the New York Times, and there's some weird stuff in there too.
And I use the valid reporting stuff.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
So
You can't blanket statement those comparing what you're doing to the New York Times. It's just not. I mean, Vice got in trouble for that early on.
comparing. What do you mean?
Comparing what you're doing to the New York Times.
I'm doing
is not-
opinion commentary.
Sure, but you're not doing reporting.
So I would say
You're not doing reporting. You don't leave the house.
So
You cannot report. You never call anybody on the phone even.
I do. I actually do. Yeah,
Okay.
that's incorrect.
Then you should record it and put it in your broadcast.
So I reach out for comments frequently.
Okay.
I do emails frequently.
Then I'm wrong. Then I'm wrong about that. I'm sorry.
Yeah, right. And so this is something a lot of these people make assumptions like you don't even do. Why would someone?
Because we
assume
don't
that?
see it. That's why.
But you don't see it when people write stories. Like
You're
the
right,
New
and
York
that's what we're
Times says,
trying to change.
my favorite Huffington Post story: people close to the president say he has no one close to
Yes,
him.
and that's you're a very good point. Like I don't like to use anonymous source, and the only time to use anonymous source if they're going to be in harm's way. Otherwise, you should try to.
I did a story where I got leaked documents, and I reached out to several organizations for comment, and I published the story. I've reached out, but I say it's not.
What about when you got the Grinnell audio stuff, like
The
for
what stuff?
Cassandra and Grinnell and like that whole
Schwartz.
Oh,
Right.
but it's related
Well, yeah,
to Grinnell.
to
Yeah,
talk
sorry.
about, yeah.
You
Did I publish that?
No,
but
But she gave it to you, right?
No, I don't think so. I think she published that.
No, but she gave it to you, and then what was it in February? It was published by Politico.
yeah, Politico.
Yeah.
Or I think Politico. Yeah, Natasha.
But she showed it to you, and
I don't think I had anything definitive.
you showed it to me though.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. I don't remember.
Okay.
There. I actually have a bunch of stories that would probably be really, really crazy.
You should let us vet them.
I will. Yeah, I'll tell you. The problem is I'd love to say them all right now, but if I can't prove it, I'm not gonna
Yeah, you should
blur it out
you
on a
shouldn't
show.
talk about anything you can't prove.
But anyway, look, what I'm trying to say is, like, this is why I say as often as possible, you can't just watch my show. You can't just watch my YouTube content. You have to go check out other people. And I think one of the reasons YouTube has done a good job and is better than the likes of mainstream media is that if you watch a video on a certain topic, you might get a progressive YouTuber's take on the same topic. You might see, or even a show like, The Hills Rising, where you've got Cigar and Crystal, and they're kind of both populist on each side, and you get different takes on things. But if you go to like Fox News or MSNBC, you only get one view, and there are people who only go to those websites. Now, there's a bunch of other really garbage websites, especially there's some websites that are right-wing that are just like, they don't care to vet. They don't want to vet. They want to just write and get the clicks.
Like Gateway Pundit.
There are some websites.
They've got some issues with their servers
You
too.
want some fun? If you've got Maltego, plug that one
Yeah,
in.
check it
That'll blow
But-
your mind.
Jim Hoff servers.
But there's left-wing versions of that too, albeit the left-wing versions try to make it look like they're real news. But you can tell.
They're not as good at the fraud as the right wing guys.
The
for
right-wing
sure.
guys?
No, they're nowhere near as good.
I think there was I don't know what caused that. I think it might be because older people were susceptible to this stuff.
Yeah, boomer stuff.
Early on, and they started putting out crazy stories. I even remember talking about I talked about this once about manipulation and how you could easily see the formula that they use to make fake news to target old right-wing individuals.
This is the crazy part to me, and that's how you know at the end of the day boomers are the ones propagating this stuff, because they don't understand that the internet's forever, and it's like we can find everything if we go and look in the right place.
The problem is right now, here's the way I see it.
Yeah.
The left as we define it, whatever that means, tends to be people who just trust mainstream news outlets. The right completely distrusts them, except for like Tucker Carlson and Hannity. Like for real,
Which is
no.
ridiculous.
But
Like-
but for real, there was like a Pew Research showing it was
It's
like,
true.
who do you
No,
trust?
I-
And it's
it's
like
true.
there was like on the right, a conservative side, it was all orange for like distrust, except for two blue chunks. It was
Journalists are overtaking lawyers is the most hated profession.
Yeah. No, it's
Yeah,
you know you're
sounds
doing
about
the
right.
right
well,
thing,
so
right?
so here's what I have to deal with. I'll be reading a news article and I'll be like, did this person even Google search this?
No.
Exactly. Like NBC News will do this, and they do you guys know what cytogenesis is?
It sounds familiar.
Self-referential citation in news
Oh,
organizations.
yes, they do that, yep.
Yeah.
So here's the problem. You have two worlds of fake news.
Mm-hmm.
One has, I think there are malicious actors on the right. And then on the left, there's malicious actors, but they're just corporations. So what they're
Yeah.
doing is like,
astroturfing and stuff.
it's
Yeah,
obvious. It's
yeah.
like, Rick from finance is like, we need articles that get 1 million views. Go write about Trump being bad. And then they do it.
Now let's get to I think one of the biggest problems on both sides are the crisis management and PR people, who I have a particular disdain for.
The
because
worst.
there's more PR people than there are journalists, and that should be inverted,
I
like
know.
1 to 3 or something. And I love going after PR people. I mean, we're going to out a couple PR people that are doing some bad stuff pretty soon. And I've never been allowed to do, like, I've always been, I kind of, by the time I was 30 or 31, had achieved most of the goals that I set out to do. And I was really astounded. I was very lucky. I was very grateful for those opportunities. But I noticed when I started doing stories like John McAfee, right? Which we own the footage that will come out at some point. And, you just got to Google BuzzFeed, Geodata, Rocco, and you'll find the truth. They've SEO'd it out of existence. But my point is, like, I've come butt up against stories where it's like, no, I've been told we don't do that type of reporting. I'm like, what? Like real reporting? Like what? And it's true though. And so, I just feel like, there's a lot of stuff that you're not supposed to do. And now that we're doing that, we're finding that we were right. And the harder we push and the more non-traditional people we work with, like we talked about journalism as a activity, like our sysadmin. He's a great securities admin. He actually was approached by Steve Bannon. And he looks in some ways fondly at some of his philosophies. I think that might be changing now when we're showing him various things. And, my point is I'm willing to talk to anyone. I find that once I start talking about this stuff, they're like, that's too complicated. I'm like, well, that's the crime.
It is complicated.
Well, it's
too bad.
It's tough. It's
you
tough.
know?
Yeah.
Like whenever I talk about Russiagate or Obamagate,
Super
it is
complicated.
mind.
It's really simple, though. It's the oldest trick in the book. You know what a shell company is, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so a shell company, like we went to Wyoming to investigate the shell companies that are associated with the Panama Papers, the addresses, and we find like suites that are like 5 offices of all these companies, and they're all empty. They have like a desk and chairs, no papers, a mailbox,
What the heck?
and we videotaped it all. And we
Literally
looked through the thing.
shells, yeah.
Now, these were found in the Panama Papers. Now, Guo Wingui, we talked to a guy, a senior administrator at a top 3 tech company, who was hired to create a script that would use the Panama Papers to, quote, create blackmail. Okay? And he found out that that's what he was doing, and he's like, I don't need to do this. And according to him, Guo took it to China and made this, who knows what he made. My point is like, that's obviously an issue, and that's something they could have called this guy up, any outlet, and found this out. If people don't understand shell companies, they have no hope. If they don't understand Cambridge Analytica, they have no hope. I don't know what to say
But
about it.
look, you can't tell someone who dedicated their life.
There's a
to
whole movie on Netflix about Cambridge Analytica. I mean, they can go watch it.
Yeah,
you
but
know.
even these
Dude, what did Steve Bannon realize? He realized that Gamergate and the World of Warcraft gold miners, there was an immense power and disenfranchised audience there. He was right. Gamers and the internet and 4chan there's more people that are into that than there are movies. You don't hear about them because they're discreet. It's a huge audience. So you can't tell me that there aren't a bunch of people on here right now that understand this. And those people that understand it, I don't really care about getting through the people that understand it, because they're just going to be, what do you guys, sheeples, deeples, meeples? I don't know what they are.
regular people spend their time mastering their trade, their craft, or whatever.
Sure.
They come home, they turn the news because it's a job they essentially have.
Yep. And we're going to mess that up for them. We're going to show you that how the sausage is made It's really disgusting.
It's
I
gross.
think most people have.
Yeah, but it's not. It's
It's kind of like we all know
gross.
McDonald's chicken nuggets are gross,
Right.
but we've never actually seen the video of it.
And we
It's
eat them.
true.
And we, yeah.
I don't. I haven't had it.
Yeah, I'm
Look,
good
man,
on that.
I've talked about it quite a bit. I worked for, ABC News Univision, and it was, they wanted to make money. They wanted to
Of
create
course.
They want to create an influence network
So,
to sell attention.
You're right, and we shouldn't look at this through a political lens. We should look at it through a criminal lens. And what do criminals want? Money. You follow the money, and that should be about as simple as it gets.
It's
How is it? How can it be
well,
more
no.
simple?
I'll say there's probably criminal elements there, but the
No,
issue
it's
is,
the
we've talked about this. Go to an investor and say, I want to do journalism, and they're going to say, how much do you need and what do I get? Okay, it's going to be for a year. I'm going to investigate this big thing. It's going to cost $500,000. Okay, what do I get after a year? I don't know. I don't know what I'm going to find.
You get movie rights in a Netflix deal. I don't
But
know.
if I don't find a news story, then you're out of luck.
Well, that would be ridiculous to try to prejudge a news story before you had proof. You'd be stupid.
You're asking for money to launch an investigative news company.
No, I'm not asking for
No.
money. I
What
can
I'm saying
find
is,
the money. Yeah.
if you go to an investor and say, I want to launch an investigative outlet, and they say, what do I get? You'll say,
I have several people that just because they know who I am and what I've done. Yeah.
what do you think happens when you go to an investor and say, I want to write a rage bait, anti-Donald Trump or,
Well,
Joe
it
Biden at
depends
this
on
point.
who it is. If it's people like Peter Thiel or Jeff
Right.
Casilla, they'd probably give you some money.
When you look at the hard numbers, the money is in writing about Brad Pitt's junk and complaining about movies and
Or
cultural
fake
issues.
traffic and botnets and
For sure.
malware and selling
That's
that
the criminal
data.
element.
Yeah, and
I'm
that's
just
happening.
what I'm saying is the problem we face is that the short-term economic incentive is not in doing real journalism.
Yeah. So
Like-
what if I take out the
That's
very,
difficult.
What if I take out the very players? It's not, because I got the list. What if we take out the very players based
No,
off...
dude, come on. There's no list stopping the average person from making the choice. Okay,
You're right. But if you take that choice away from them because they're a disingenuous actor, where does it go? I don't know. We don't know.
we have freedom of speech.
I'm doing the things that you're not supposed to do. That's all I know, and we're going to see what happens.
Good. Excellent. We'll do more of it.
We will.
Let's.
love it.
How about we do super chats
We
now?
should
'Cause we
read
went a
super
little long.
chats. We're way over.
Super chats? What are super chats?
Super
The
chats.
comments from
Oh,
the
I know
people
you're
who are going
talking
to
about.
be.
I thought it was like Super Jail. That's my favorite.
No.
show.
I love that show.
Yeah.
People throw
Can
money
you-
at us.
Can you pull up Real Clear?
Do I have to dance?
on your
Is there a
phone?
poll?
Can you
Yeah, I
look-
can.
Yeah, you get more money if
Look
you
up
dance.
538 Real Clear Politics.
I looked that up. That's not. I don't see anything to confirm
Oh,
that
okay.
they've changed their tune about
All right.
those states. Sorry.
Yeah,
I
people
did
are
look
claiming
that
that certain states got retracted or something
I
out.
don't really.
That'd be
5538.
interesting. Yeah.
Let's see. The Productive Slayer says China also performed human rights violations. They prosecute and detained people that are religious, foreign, or anyone they consider as a threat to their political system. The big one is Uyghurs concentration camp and forces live organ harvest. Stay away from TikTok.
I can talk about that one. We've done videos before on the Uyghurs.
Really?
Yeah. We've
Cool.
done 2 videos with a certain group in DC, and yeah, I mean you can go into Subverse's old videos now. Scanner. SCNR. And yeah, we did two videos on that issue, and it's something that we are going to continue looking at because we are making more contacts along the way regarding those
Very
Interesting.
cool. That
Check it
needs
out.
investigation.
We actually, well, we won't get into
No,
that
we
yet.
shouldn't.
We'll just say that.
All
Hold
right.
on to that one. Yeah.
Once you see organ harvesting happening through a Zoom
Jeez,
call,
dude.
maybe that
Yeah.
will make the story distill to you a
Hopefully
little
it'll
quick.
So,
Real,
but
yeah.
you're saying hard confirmation on this stuff.
No, I'm saying it's possible to get.
Okay.
We don't know the laws yet. We're looking at it.
I see. Interesting.
All right.
Wow.
Wing Knight says, keep on talking the truth. Stay safe.
Oh,
Will
cool.
do.
Nice.
Dima says, the reason avocado toast socialists treat the working class poorly is they don't even know we exist. It is time for us to express our immense displeasure for our treatment the past 5 years and the past 5 decades by striking energy, trucking, logging, and more. Cool.
Interesting.
Let's see. We have another one. Oh, there we go. Okay. Jay McGurr says, I was talking to someone today and they brought up the 2016 recounts. And while I was looking it up, Wiki said that 59% of precincts in Detroit were ineligible for recount because the amount of ballots in the box did not match the number printed from the machines. I haven't looked that up myself, but I did see a headline. It's not enough, but I don't know if you guys saw this. There was like right now in several counties in like Florida and I think in Wisconsin, voter turnout rates exceeded 100%. Which
How? How's that
they say it's
possible?
because people changed their address. That's their official explanation.
Sure.
And where was it again? Sorry.
There's a bunch. Florida
Well, why does it
precinct
matter in
538
Florida?
and
the precinct. I see.
and then in several counties in Wisconsin. had greater than 100%.
It needs
turnout.
to be investigated.
Yeah, I would
obviously.
say so. Yeah,
That's my stance. I'm like,
But it will, and we'll figure it out.
Yeah.
I hope so.
I'm not convinced it will be investigated.
Well, we'll investigate it. How about that? I'm from
about-
Florida.
Yeah, do it. That would be so much fun, you guys.
I got some people in the Florida election.
Heck
board.
Do it,
yeah,
please.
Let's do it. Yeah.
Take a look.
I
Go
mean,
scanner.
you guys, go scanner.
You guys
I mean,
got this.
we got to get a little bit more bandwidth there, but
Yeah.
it's gonna look. Math adds up usually.
Yeah, usually.
Usually, like all the documents
There-
we have, it adds up to almost the perfect amount of the 1MDB account. I don't know how that
Oh,
is. you know.
cool.
Yeah.
Very neat.
Well, certain pieces of it, yeah.
Yes.
So yeah, we have a bunch of super chats, like a ridiculous amount, where people are like, they're retracting states.
I didn't
Okay,
see
are they paying
that.
attention to what we're actually saying, though?
I don't
Like,
know. They're kind
Oh
of
no no no!
throwing this in.
Yes
yeah.
yes. There's a ridiculous
are,
amount of
'cause
super
we
chats.
just
There's just a
talked
lot
about
of
it.
them. Yeah.
That's a botnet. It's trying to propagate some crap.
Well,
That's
yeah.
true,
That's all
yeah.
there is to it.
Yeah.
Right?
I mean,
bots.
we get stuff like this usually where people will be like, "Yo, this thing just happened,"
So-
and then I'll look and I'll be like, "That's not
So
true."
I actually looked up 538 retracting. I looked up like recent tweets.
Nothing?
There's nothing recent.
It's
There's
just
from
super
like
chats.
4 days ago. Yeah. So I don't. It's kind of weird. I
I
don't
see
know.
some people are complaining that I was a tomato.
Oh, yep.
Okay, yeah.
Tim Orangeman good. Yes. Tomato. I see that.
What does that mean?
He,
It
his
was the
camera
camera
a little bit
was
off.
red.
I
I
fixed
know.
it. I fixed it with
Oh,
the paper.
wow.
Let's see.
They love it.
Lydia T says, "Do you think that a
Oh.
Biden administration will try to subsidize the dissemination of critical race theory in order to re-educate
Oh,
Americans?"
Hello, Lydia.
I'll put it this way. Re-educate Americans is a loaded statement, but I would say that one of Joe Biden's executive orders is to reinstate critical race theory. You guys know about what they were doing, right?
Yeah.
At, like Sandia
yeah.
Labs.
I don't know enough about it to comment other than it doesn't matter because the bots are going to control what your brain thinks anyway.
We're all screwed anyway. Cool. I like
I mean,
that.
that's yes, but at the Sandia, I think was it Sandia where they were
Yeah.
putting the white people on retreats?
Yeah, so that's like a nuclear power. It's not
Mm-hmm.
nuclear power. It's like they're developing weapons and they're sending the white people to retreats to force them to recant their whiteness. Like, how dare they?
Oh well, it's happened to a lot of other people.
Yeah.
That's
Time-
true.
Time
That
for
didn't
our
end
turn,
well
I guess.
either.
Yeah.
I don't like
Yes,
it.
sir.
That's why
I'm
Trump
joking.
gets-
I'm joking. I'm saying
gotta-
it's not good for anybody. And in fact, but again, what I would recalibrate to is potentially over 45 to 55,000 agents of foreign influence from one country in this country.
Right.
50,000.
That's what we're hearing.
That's a lot.
Compromised. You've noticed. You've said it. All of
Yeah.
these people getting picked up. Right. There's a guy
Yep.
that was picked up. Okay. There's a guy that was picked up in Arkansas
Oh, yeah.
last year.
Yeah, last
A bunch
year.
of people picked up in Arkansas, but particularly a guy that was picked up with a Walmart scam where he was riding across the country. This is what it said in the articles, right? Using gift cards from Walmart from some scam. I don't know how the scam worked. And it was some podunk town,
in Arkansas.
in
yeah.
Arkansas. I love Arkansas, by the way. And near the lakes. So he wasn't a student. And he was like the Secret Service was involved in the arrest. This is from the local papers. This is from all the things. It went under the radar. And there was no specific like damage to the town that was read in the charging report for the local courts.
They said they couldn't find any
Right.
victims.
Victims. And Walmart and global investigations is handling it, which is that's weird.
What the heck?
Oh, that's a whole other story.
Wow.
Yeah, we won't get into that.
Spies.
Oh my gosh.
So
it's
corporate
everywhere.
intelligence is a real thing.
Yeah. For sure.
And part of this story will revolve around me unraveling certain agents of influence and corporate intelligence that have tried to enwrap me in some things over the years that I trapped them, and I got them. And I've waited, and I'm going to unspool them like, I'm going to...
Don't overpromise.
Causing
I
trouble
think I have
there.
all the blowtorches and
got
pot
all your-
fires I need,
I want to hear about. I want to see this list. I want to see
I'm
some.
sure you do.
I want some
A lot of
verification.
people want to
Yeah,
see
I
it.
want-
It's not even
told
about
you,
what I
we
want.
have
I
not
want-
verified it. It is
The-
is the list that we are very certain, but not 100%, but getting close, because we're transparent, that we believe Guo and Gui is using to manipulate various foreign affairs.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Well.
St. Miles says, "Hey, Emily Molly, cool to see her on."
Very cool.
Ah,
Yeah.
You too, bud, even though I can't see you.
I love you, random citizen.
You guys are gonna love this one. My IQ is lower than my chromosome count says.
Oh no.
So what
Well-
you're saying is that you found the source of all those last minute Biden votes?
Oh, man.
Yeah, I think that was it. 55.
You
gonna have to
specifically
start
were
over.
like, let's not make it political.
Oh,
Yeah.
thanks, guys.
Let's take it from the top.
Check this
Yeah,
out.
go again.
The Insomnia Addict says, Red Hat hackers have been used by the FBI for years. Flip and used to take down criminals.
It's true.
Why wouldn't these be turned into nation actors?
It's true, but it's different when you have an internet. The distinction I would make is that if you work for tailored operation, you know who Sabu is, right?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. So I remember Sabu came into the Vice office once, and I was like, "Get that guy.
Get him out.
right? Get him out. And like
He was but people don't know who he is.
Mhm.
He's he basically ratted on his
a
crew.
little sick,
Right,
right?
yeah.
And he became an informant, and
Right.
he got
Wow.
Barrett Brown busted, and all these people, right? Eventually,
Yeah.
Actually, Barrett,
No, Barrett Brown wasn't through Sabo.
Well, it wasn't, but
it was like,
I don't want to get into that debate.
Yeah, yeah.
But my point is like Joe Fionda, Barrett Brown, all these people did reach out to me when I started, working as scanner, and told me like a lot of weird stuff. I don't know. I don't really get involved in that stuff, but it was just. I do think you kind of like were very disturbed by that. By like I thought you would be like friendly with Anonymous and all these people, but it seemed like you didn't want me to talk to them.
No way, dude.
Oh
What are
my
you talking about? I'll
gosh.
give you their phone numbers.
I have their.
I think you're confused, man.
Then I'm wrong. I'm wrong.
Yeah.
I'm wrong.
No, I think a lot of those people are compromised for sure.
Well, I think
Take a look at the videos of them hanging out with Weave, and now see what they say.
I was
never friends with
I was never
Do you know where
there.
Weave is?
Yeah, he's Ukraine pig farming, isn't he?
I don't know.
Yeah, I'm
You're
pretty sure he's
weird
in Ukraine.
friends.
So for those unfamiliar, Weave was one of the most notorious trolls and hackers in the U.S. He was, I think it's fair to say, wrongly prosecuted over this AT&T hack thing, but
Yeah,
he was
maybe.
notoriously a white nationalist.
Quite the
I
troublemaker.
don't know of the exact ideology, but I think that's it. It might be worse. I have no idea. But you had all of these hackers and Anonymous who were good friends with him, partying with him, taking photos with him. And then as soon as the culture war ignited and it expanded, these people all came out and said, I was accidentally being tricked by the Russians.
It's a little different than that. I mean,
was a
Joe
setup.
Fiona was like videotaping his trip from prison and was like bummed out that he wanted to listen to white national music in the car ride. It was like, what is going on? So it was like Barrett is one
I was
thing.
at
and then,
Weave's I'm sorry you're going to prison party with these
I heard
people.
that.
And they were such good friends with him, laughing and taking
Glenn
hugs.
Greenwald and all sorts of people.
Glenn wasn't there.
But he's taking pictures with them. I don't know if it was
Yeah,
for that
yeah, yeah.
party.
But you got to be careful with some of these photos because like if a
No,
dude walks
you're
up-
right. You're right.
This is why I don't take photos with anybody. Because I don't.
You take a lot of photos, though.
No, I don't.
Okay.
Well,
That's
not
no
anymore.
way.
Not anymore, right?
Yeah, I don't take pictures with anybody because people do this on purpose. Where they'll come up
do.
to you and try and get a picture with you so they can try and.
No, yeah.
you know.
There's some.
That's why I pick my nose. in every
widely
picture,
circulated ones, which is why I get why you don't do it anymore.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
completely
there was
understand
so
that one.
after
That
I
makes
think it
sense.
was in let me try and think. Was it Berkeley or Portland? I got messaged by the alt-right guys that had organized the rally, and they asked me like, "Hey, we're all meeting. Would you want to come?" And I said, "I'll come. I'll talk to you guys." Ordered my own food, drank nothing, had a glass of water. They took a picture, and now the left uses that to try and claim I was hanging out
Tim's
with
sitting
them.
there looking like he hates his life.
Just like the photos I have of, with a Soviet general in Ukraine or with a Brazilian gang member, it's like I took pictures with some people. Or I was just sitting there and they took a picture and then they used that. So now I'm just like, I'm not playing that game, dude.
No,
These people want to create narratives and craft narratives. So I'm not even interested in going on anyone's shows or anything like that either. I'm just totally over it. I'm going to mind my own business.
No,
Anyway.
you've got it.
Like
Super
staying in your
chats.
own lane. Makes sense.
Let's see. A lot of people are very interested in the political ramifications of it, but considering I don't think we have any,
Well, they can watch the second part of our video. We're going to
Yeah.
be doing,
Well,
Yeah, it's
people
gonna be
should
great.
get over the political aspect. Like,
Yeah, it's-
stop,
This is
stop
bigger than
thinking like
that,
that.
yeah.
Like seriously, for
think
real.
about
Knock
about
off.
your country and other countries and what that means. So instead of like
Think
your
about it-
state and this
yeah.
other state, it's like there's other countries out there.
Think of it as an American rather than somebody on the right or the left.
It could be something that unifies us at least.
Ah,
For
It
should
should
be.
be. Yeah,
I
for
hope so.
sure.
I think the ideological issue is not.
That's a distraction, though.
I agree.
It's all,
Dude,
it's such a huge
You know-
distraction, and it's done purposefully.
It's
It's not going
I
to go
disagree.
away. It's not going to go away. But can we agree that foreign influence on elections is bad?
Yeah, I
Of
think
course.
so. Of
Okay,
course.
then
yeah.
we should at least we can agree there, and we can start looking at things there. And
The problem
it
is
takes years to uncover it. Too.
when you see California just failed Prop 16. The Californians voted against it. This is very, very good news. I'm very happy to hear this. But they were trying to repeal their civil rights law.
Yes, and a lot of people have changed hands in at least the local Los Angeles administrations and something
That's
like that.
scary.
Yeah,
That's scary.
I don't know.
The stuff they were doing that we learned from Christopher Rufo out of say Sandia Labs,
Yeah.
like taking all of the white people to a retreat where they have to go through these trainings where they repeat over and over again. These are struggle sessions. Like this is creepy.
happened.
I don't know, man.
China.
I've been called a Mexican all my life, and I'm not in any way, shape, or
even
form.
close.
Yeah, people call me Roscoe, Rick. I've never taken
Joe
offense.
Biden
ever.
Joe
Like,
Biden's Progressive Coalition Pact or whatever has in it a social equity credit scoring system.
Well, they're just like the Chinese. Yeah. So what am I talking
Right,
about?
yeah, I know.
This
So-
data set is that, and you have at least, I believe that people that might participate in this data brokerage.
Probably. Well, I mean, I know a lot of people, but
Yeah,
Well,
he
you're
does.
close.
But
to
what I'm saying is,
Yeah.
when I hear that Joe Biden has a plan, and I looked into this. I didn't believe it when I heard it, that they want to create a public
Sounds too
agency
crazy.
that uses social equity scoring systems to determine whether you can get a loan or not.
Yeah, non-essential and essential. Those are terms that are going to be here to stay.
That is horrifying.
No, it's not, because most people should be on the dole because a robot's going to do their job better than they are.
No,
That's
no, no,
the
no,
fact
no.
of life.
When they say you can't get a car loan because you're white, that's freaky.
That's different. Okay,
That's what I'm
obviously.
talking about.
No,
Yeah,
they're
that's
not
what
going to
we're
be
talking about.
scoring you. You know more about the social.
It literally says this
Well,
in the
Chinese
pact.
one, right.
but
no,
it's
the-
based off the Chinese.
The American one says racial equity.
Okay.
Your score and eligibility.
I don't think that's going to go over well with everybody.
I don't think it's going to be legal because it's a
don't either.
violation. But
Yeah.
here's the problem.
Hope not.
When Donald Trump banned the critical race theory trainings in the federal government, all of them that he banned specifically violated Title VII of the Civil Rights Act. Joe Biden says he's going to rescind that, which means now it's going to be up to the individuals who are being put through these trainings to file federal lawsuits under Title VII of the Civil Rights Act.
He also said he was going to, support fracking in Pennsylvania. We'll see what happens.
Joe
right?
Biden? He
did?
said both. He's going to get rid
Yeah,
of
he
it
said
and
both
support
yes
it.
and no.
Yeah.
Good stuff.
But
So-
the reasoning was sound, and we'll see if he wins or loses. What he says.
Yeah,
next.
I'm curious.
I'm
Really
joking.
curious.
Chris Dumas says, "Yo Tim, do you think it should be considered a bad faith election if they actually Amendment 25 Biden?" Well, my
Interesting.
personal opinion is,
Interesting. I see. Huh?
well, you heard what Pelosi said about it, right? It's
No.
not for Trump; it's for a future president.
Uh-huh.
That they're creating a panel to remove the president.
I mean, where's the one? Can you do that to Nancy Pelosi? Because I think she
I know, right?
probably
I'm
needs it
ready to
done
do
too,
something
be
crazy,
honest.
lady. Crazy alcoholic lady.
I mean, she might because they've lost. I think
there should be age limits. I honestly
for
think
sure.
I think
Yeah.
Trump, Pelosi,
100%.
and Biden are too old.
done
out.
Yeah.
70.
Cognitive tests for
100%, yeah.
Yeah, you have to play
Yeah.
pickup sticks with your
But didn't
butt
you
cheeks.
see
It's
Trump
about
Trump
driving
Trump
down.
passed his test?
Yeah.
Remember?
Yeah,
he
but it
remembers
was
the
like,
words.
He was
it was like pants, woman,
shark,
radio.
panda, bear, cheese, whiz, and that was it. You pass. It was pretty much it.
It's
do you
actually
actually think he's in good physical shape too?
Trump.
Sorry. Yeah.
I'll tell you
He's
this,
spry as
man.
heck.
He's spry.
He really is. Look at
I
that
mean-
energy.
I can't walk uphill, bro.
Trump.
Yeah.
But it's not even about that. It's like I agree with you on the age limit. Like
The age limit,
regardless
yeah.
of Trump or Biden
sure.
or like Pelosi's 80.
Jeez.
At a certain point, like, you know what's crazy is like we assume, and I'm not trying
They
to be
also
mean
don't
to
understand the internet. So all these things
Right.
we're
Oh,
I
talking
know.
about, they don't have any clue.
No,
So
that is a huge
who's in
problem.
control?
It's a
Who's in
huge
charge
problem.
here?
I'll tell you this right now.
Jack.
I said it in 2018. Republicans are too stupid to deal with the issue of internet censorship to actually win, like to actually save their own party.
Yes, but you got people like Charlie Ergen, who's friends with Brittany and all these people, and Chase Ergen, that they are wanting to move in on net neutrality. They have, and then that's an issue now. And
Yeah.
that's actually when we get to the core of this, and people don't understand what net neutrality is. I encourage you to Google it, because I'm not going to explain it all here.
Nobody could
You know.
explain it.
It's basically creating multiple internets
Yeah.
and prioritizing. If you're watching Netflix because they pay more as a premium for this conduit of information, the internet is a series of tubes. It's like, which is kind of true now, you know. So,
Let's see. I think I already read that one about avocado toast socialists. That was
Indeed.
funny. Garrick Sturgill says, "Holy S, these guys are legit."
Yep. I
Well,
know, right?
Well,
Thank you.
Hopefully, some people are saying these people are
Too
hacks.
legit to quit.
There's a good
give us
amount
a
of like.
call. Would you like to? We'd like to have you on the program, our program. I mean, you'd like to tell us why you're hacks. Like,
Oh.
we'll take you up on that offer, and then maybe
Yeah.
we'll come after you.
Oh, that'd be great. Sounds exciting.
We're an equal opportunist thing. We're like,
There's
Oh my gosh.
there's a good mix of people saying you guys suck and you guys rock.
Yeah,
so,
hey
that's
man,
great.
why do we
That's
suck?
perfect.
That's the way
yeah.
it's supposed to be.
Yeah,
Exactly.
exactly. I love
It's
it.
actually true journalism pisses everyone off. 'cause it's
Exactly.
unpopular,
People
you
don't
know.
like to be held accountable.
They
and
don't.
That
that's-
is very
that's
true.
exactly what's going to
And
happen.
in this
Oh,
age, data. Okay.
Someone
that?
says, "Why is he so rude and smug to Tim?"
Ooh.
Rocco.
Rocco, how dare you be smug?
Because it works.
It works.
You know?
It works. It
Dude.
works.
Tim,
I think.
why did you hire Rocco?
What do you mean?
What,
Oh,
like,
that's a
why
good
did
question.
why did you bring him in?
Because he's smug and rude.
Yeah, it's true.
Well, I hit up Rocco because Rocco.
He's good at his job, man.
Yeah, he's good at his job.
I don't know.
Because when he was at Vice, he had a bunch of stories and was constantly complaining about the establishment powers that were trying to
Yes,
stop people
that's
from telling the
personally one.
news.
And I felt,
there-
you know, and
why,
just
was
so
there another-
you-
is
No,
there-
I just
I'm not-
genuinely
I-
wanted to
I-
know. Like a lot of people don't like a lot of Yurt fans don't like necessarily what we're doing.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And so I think it is important for you to tell why you brought him in.
Oh, I mean, that's one of it. The other thing is, I think that here's the way I put it. I'm one guy. I have opinions.
This is true.
I read the news all day, and I make videos based on my opinions and what I think are like, wow, that's the most shocking thing to me today, and here's what I think about it. But I also recognize that the internet has become news is dead. the New York Times is being taken over by activists. And so I'm like, all right, well, Rocco, Emily, can you guys go do news? Because I don't think I'm not doing on the ground reporting, digging into documents and anything like that. You guys can go do it. I'm some dude who complains on the internet about his feelings. You know what I mean? I'm not like.
That's what he calls
I mean,
himself.
I had a period where I was doing on the ground documentary and
Right
field
on,
reporting.
yeah. Right.
It started to get too dangerous because they started to call me out for reporting on what they were doing. There's I don't know if you guys know. Is the stuff about Elijah public?
Oh, I think so. Yeah, he tweeted about it. He tweeted
Okay,
about like death threats against him.
Yeah.
right?
So
yeah.
Elijah Schaefer, who goes on the ground and he reports on.
Is the guy dresses up like Subcommandante Marcos?
I
no,
don't think so.
he wears black.
No.
He blends into with Antifa.
But
I don't know.
he got
I see, yes.
yeah, that's
he
all
got
right.
contacted by the FBI because there was a credible death threat against him.
Yes.
Well, you know,
Yeah.
I will say, like, that's not cool for somebody to get death threats, but he hasn't been completely, like, genuine in all of his posts and reporting.
Like, you think that he's posting fake news?
I would say framing is important.
he is biased. We know that.
Yeah. Is
he
he
would tell you
biased?
that.
I don't
for
think.
sure.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
I was
I
at
think
the same. I was at-
everybody's biased.
Who does he
dude.
work for?
Who does he work for?
Nobody, but he hosts a podcast that appears on Blaze.
Yeah.
Do you think he receives funds from foreign actors?
No, I don't think so.
No, but I think a lot of people who don't realize it.
Okay.
Like there's
unwitting, yeah.
So one thing I think people need to realize too. You know how easy it is for a foreign actor to fund and prop up a YouTuber?
Yep.
The
Yes.
easiest possible thing
Super
in the
easy.
world.
Yeah.
Super easy.
It's very.
Yep,
easy.
yep.
That's why Guo has his own series of channels. You know?
You can check this out. You can direct ad revenue to one specific channel, and you can buy any ad you want. Which means you can have somebody in China take a Coca-Cola commercial video and then pay to run it on Scanner or
Yeah.
Timcast.
And you never know.
And I would never know, and you would never know. And you'd be like, wow, ad rates are coming in great. And what they do is, this is something news organizations do. People think that news organizations are compromised in that they hire on these criminals and they say, I want you to write about how this politician is good or bad. And they go, haha, I'll do it. What really happens is they find people who are blogging or tweeting about how they don't like certain things and say, hire that person because they're going to write good stuff that we're going to use and we're going to make money off of. So what happens with social media, particularly YouTube, where it's really easy, you can have a foreign agent or even the government or some corporation or whatever say, this guy talks about things that we really like. Dump ad money into his channel through Google AdSense and they'll never know we were the ones funding him and you can't prove it.
So, do you think you think that's something like YouTube should be looking into, or somebody should audit YouTube for that kind of information?
Definitely.
If it's foreign?
You think YouTube's in on it?
I don't think YouTube's in on it. I think YouTube doesn't care.
Yeah, 'cause
And
it
as
serves
long
their
as
goal.
journalists don't call them out for it, they're not going to say anything.
That's going to cause another adpocalypse. Are you ready
That's
for that?
that's the big problem. But I think I've said it a million times. If they announced that they were going to like ban Twitter, I would lose my account. I'd be like, dude, Twitter's terrible.
Yeah, it
get rid
is.
of it. Just get rid of it.
bad
I'm
for
half
humanity.
kidding. Like
No.
No,
Of
it's
course.
bad for us.
but if I found out that someone was secretly funneling money through AdSense to my channel, I'd be like, cut it all off. I don't care. I'll go sleep in a
might have
ditch.
some news for you.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we've looked at we kind of addressed this with you the last board meeting we had about certain sites like syphilisdating.com and
Which
Nice.
don't go
Nothing
to it.
to
by
do
the
Don't
way.
go to
Don't
it.
go to
Sounds
any of these
wonderful.
sites that we talk about.
well, it does because it lists
What the
your
heck?
brother and you as the owner. And there's a series of 55 URLs like antifahub.org.
Whoa, interesting.
A lot of them are packed with malware. A lot of them are packed with they have security reports.
Yeah, but
in them.
what does that have to do with me
I
or
don't
YouTube?
know. I'm saying I
Yeah.
don't know, but you should look into it.
Yeah. Look, man, people can slap my name on whatever they want.
But there's also timcast.net, timcast.co, and I've taken a look at those servers,
Yeah.
and they put back to .cn sites, and that becomes a little
That's
troubling.
crazy.
There's actually a government section of the Alibaba servers that it
That's
backs
Wix,
into.
brother.
That is Wix.
That's just me using Wix.
Yeah, they have some interesting JavaScript codes, but you
Really?
should be
Wait, are you
careful with your
serious?
data. Yeah. You should be very careful with your
My
data.
website's just Wix.com, and then .co is just a URL redirect.
You've got
Shouldn't
some
be anything
unique malware on there. You should look at.
We'll shut it down.
Interesting.
Anyway, let's read a couple more super chats, huh?
What a derail.
Sorry, guys.
No, we're good. That's
So
interesting.
yeah, don't go to those sites,
Don't-
by the way.
but-
Don't go to them. Don't do it. Not unless you want like
not
a super
syphilis
virus.
dating. Don't go to
No,
syphilis.
don't go to that.
I can't imagine going
Unless
to
you want some malware or something.
Unless
Andrew
you-
S says, confused about all the China, Malaysia, UAE, and 1MDB talk?
Yeah, I'm
You should read the book Billion Dollar Whale about Yo Lo,
Joe Low, yeah.
Yep.
Oh,
and dig into
interesting.
Goldman Sachs.
Seeing that a
Yeah,
lot
Yeah, Goldman
tonight.
Sachs has a piece of this too.
Fascinating.
Oh yeah. Goldman Sachs was recently in the news because
They paid a settlement.
yeah.
Of course they did.
Yeah.
So I don't know who this is directed at, but I'll read it anyway. Andrew Starr says, you sat here and S on Cassandra, Glenn Greenwald, and anyone who disagrees with your worldview for the last hour, but now you want to talk unity. Is that for Rocco?
What?
Yeah, it's
I
for
don't
me.
understand.
No, I called them disingenuous actors that
Oh.
work with foreign agents, and you're
Glenn?
un-American.
Oh,
if-
no.
yeah.
That,
Glenn
not
Cassandra?
all of them. Not all of
No,
them.
not all of them, but the people that he's referring to. Well, yeah, I would say Glenn is a disingenuous actor that works with foreign
He
agents.
strikes you as being disingenuous.
Really?
Yeah, I don't think he always was, but I do now. I'd invite him to prove me wrong, and maybe I could prove.
I actually
myself
feel the
right.
other way around. I used to not like him. Now I think he's done better.
I don't really have an opinion of him. If he was handed documents by like somebody and reported them out, which pretty much anyone could do. And
Oh,
that's
for
my
sure.
opinion. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
And
from a
and-
professional
and
standpoint.
I was not a fan of him back in the day for a lot of reasons.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
instead of publishing the documents, he slow trickled them out and then they disappeared.
I also just don't have I don't have much of an opinion. I don't really read people I don't like. It doesn't enter my worldview. Like this guy, I just block him. I'd be like, who cares? Or I'd say, give me your real name. Let's have a discussion about it. Let's have a debate point by point.
Sit down and talk about it.
And if I'm wrong, I have to shave a stripe down my head. If you're wrong, you have to lick my boot. Something like
Okay,
that.
there you go. Sounds good. Sounds
Yeah.
fair.
Yeah.
I get on board with that.
The Insomniatic says, are you going to cover the hacktivist change that happened to Anon back in like 07?
Yes.
Scientology push. I feel the low orbit ion cannon and whatnot was the weaponization of the culture war.
It
Stay
was.
tuned.
And a lot what happened after Tunisia with Twitter and all this stuff actually plays into that. It's very important
It's
history.
it's actually really simple. Different groups of people had different interests, and it's like you ever play the game Life Genesis, where you have like little blue dots and little red dots.
Oh, I know what you're
And if you
talking about.
mix them together, then the red dots get eaten up by the blue dots. The Scientology thing wasn't supposed to be this legitimate anti-Scientology action, but it was a troll against Scientology, but it attracted people who actually were activists. Then you get actual activists who are involved now, but the regular trolls were like, we don't actually care about this.
No.
And thus created this activist movement, and then WikiLeaks and
It's still like Star
collateral.
Wars, though. The saga. Like I was actually hired to adapt We Are Anonymous into a screenplay, which is a book by Parmi Olson. I don't know if it'll come out, but it was fascinating to do that. Part of how I met some of these people. I do think a lot of them got the raw shake on where they're internet activists, and I think that's a real thing that people should probably respect a little bit more than they do, because the internet is supposed to be the great equalizer of free speech, and net neutrality will, the undercutting of that will really hurt the internet. in that
I
sense.
think the big problem is that Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, the big tech companies have already undercut it.
Of course they have,
Yeah.
and now we just have to blow up their spot. Should be fun.
Figuratively.
All of
In
it happens on
Minecraft.
the internet, man.
Uh-huh.
We don't blow anything up around here.
Alex, you see what they banned
unless
Alex
it's a
Jones
malware
for?
server. What's
I
that?
know, exactly.
They banned Alex Jones for they banned Bannon for,
Just for
I'm,
being.
I'm not going to repeat it.
Oh yeah, no,
Yeah, I know
think
what they
people
banned him
need,
for.
Yeah,
I mean, I'd like to be able to say that about certain people, but sure.
Sure. We keep things some things
be
inside. Yeah,
irresponsible.
that's
I guess-
You have
right.
I guess-
a massive
Yeah.
platform
Keep
and
it
you're using
inside.
it for those.
I
yeah.
tell him
You got to
all
be
the
careful
time.
about what you say.
Well, I tell him all the time. My ultimate dream is to bait someone into doing something violent against me, but I'll have I'll have a Home Alone set up, and I'll
Oh
have a
my
live
gosh.
stream, like a Rube Goldberg machine, where it like
You know,
slaps
you
you with
stream it?
fish,
That'd
and
be
then
fun.
and I'll stream it, and then like I'll torture them until they tell me who
Get
they
a bunch
work
of
for.
money. That sounds like a
And
wow.
then, yeah.
Yeah.
What a
Then they just-
fantasy.
Then
And
they
that'll
just
be
disappear.
Then we'll put it up on Scanner.
Gosh, what's
Just
wrong
kidding.
with you?
Just kidding.
Don Reif says these guys are like a left-wing Alex Jones who won't even tell you the story they have.
Oh, you can watch it though. Don't worry. It's part 2's up now. Click on it.
Yeah.
Scanner. Love it.
All right, let's see.
Super cool. Not
Godzilla says Red Hat is a type of hacker, nothing involving China.
Really. It is true. It's a nation-state hacker. That's what I said.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or it's like a privateer hacker, like a Corsair.
Yeah.
It has morphed into that. I'm talking about in the traditional sense. Read about a guy called the Eagle from China and the Eagle Honker Union to get a real sense of where Red Hat came from.
Let's see. Netflix says Tim will regret letting these pompous, arrogant people spew nonsense for so long. They are only here for your audience. Tim, P.S. Adderall is a hell of a drug. I got to tell you, like we're gonna have people on that people don't like. for
Sorry,
whatever
guys.
reason.
What's
sorry,
his
not
name?
sorry.
Nutscrape? What's his name? How about put your real name on there and
Yeah,
come see
come
me,
on.
and I'll tell you several things.
see
No,
me.
But you're not
no,
gonna-
you're gonna
No,
get
we're
we're
not
gonna
gonna
get
fight
banned.
people.
Saying,
For what? I'm going to
Well,
talk
he
to
wants
him
to
like
have
an
a
individual. I want to have a
conversation. There's nothing
conversation.
Innuendo, man.
Interview him. Yeah, let's interview
I
him.
want to embarrass him publicly.
Okay, that sounds fair.
That is fair. You can embarrass me publicly if you're right.
There you
That's
go.
There
okay.
you go. It's
Cody
okay.
Blackwell says, "Hey Tim, have you heard of the channel Legal Eagle? He does similar videos but specializes in the legal stuff.
Oh,
At a
cool.
glance, he
He's
seems
good,
like a
yeah.
decent person, but definitely anti-Trump, so it feels
Oh
biased.
my god.
I don't
I'm
mind. if-
anti-power. Like, how about
Yeah,
that?
yeah,
Is
yeah.
that cool to say? I like to
Anti-establishment.
speak.
I
No,
would say
I'm anti-power.
I
love the-
personally would say
yeah.
I'm anti-abuse of power, because I think, like, there needs to
Power
be
has to exist.
Well, sure, but
I want to speak truth to power.
sure. There
put
you
it
go.
that way.
Exactly.
That's fair.
I see.
That.
People.
cliche
What
kind
people
of
need to
stuff.
realize about Rocco. Actually, I'll say this: Emily is very professional and good at what she does. And so I was like, so at first I was, I'm not doing a dig on Rocco. So I was like, okay, so Emily's gonna do her thing, and I'm confident she can take care of it. But Rocco's the kind of guy who I feel like if someone tries giving you the business, doesn't matter what their politics are, doesn't matter how much money
Give
they
it right
have,
back to him.
you're gonna give them the finger and like flick a cigarette butt in their face.
No,
and be
I'm
like,
going to publicly embarrass them.
You-
Shame
I'm
them.
saying,
That's kinda what he's
you see
getting
what I'm
at,
saying?
yeah.
I'm saying
Yeah.
figuratively.
No,
He's
no,
being
that's what
nice
I'm going to do.
here.
I'm tired of mincing around words and being nice.
You're supposed
If
to
you
embarrass
step up,
someone.
like I don't open my mouth unless I know something. If you're going to open your mouth, and if I'm wrong, I will be the first to admit, and I will apologize because I'm an adult.
He does that. Yeah.
Yeah.
He does do that. Interesting.
But I don't publicly say things I need to apologize for unless I make an error, which happens
You know-
hasn't happened yet.
You know what I think the most important thing though is like the stuff you guys are reporting on does overlap with politics, but there's other stuff you mentioned, the water stuff. Like too much news is just talking about
Yeah.
politics, culture, war.
Yeah, it's kind of boring.
And so
100%.
right, that's why I think it's important uncover these compromised people. It overlaps with politics for sure, but do the water story as well and other stories. And I think so this is what I wanted to do for a long time. I wanted to like hire 5 journalists and be like, journalism.
Journalism away.
Go do it. Just write whatever. Like, and obviously there would need to be some kind of like editorial oversight or something, but I also wanted to hire some fact checkers. Problem is COVID just stopped everything
did.
dead in its tracks.
Yeah.
I couldn't get the building, can't move people, can't go out and do stuff. So it's like,
Well, we rented an RV and actually shot an entire series that we'll be pitching to Netflix, Hulu, et cetera. We waited till after the election because it is about the pandemic, but it's not from a perspective. It's not hosted. It's all verite. It's about, first of all, the economic crisis that is, inevitable that we have to figure out, right? That's real no matter what else happened. Definitely from a doctor's perspective, the pandemic's been real. And we can get into all that.
yeah.
The third is civil unrest and how it played into this election. And the fourth I'm forgetting something now.
It's all going to get worse and you're going to have to keep going.
No, it's more about,
Well, I think it was 3 interlocking crises, right? Or
I don't
but
remember.
there's like another element to it that I'm blanking on.
yeah, sorry.
Environmental.
In terms, and the reason we say that
Oh
is
yeah,
'cause
healing the world.
not even that. It's more like that we went to New Orleans in April to do an episode about Louisiana, where you literally have chemical factories on old slave plantation land, and you have the offspring of slaves. All the white people have moved out, and you have the worst chemicals being pumped in North America right next to them. They have the highest, and it's why it's called Cancer Alley, and it has been called that for 30 years. And now COVID comes along, and they have the highest per capita instance of COVID in the world, which I've never seen such a direct display of what people might call environmental injustice. But that backs into personal liberties too, because the white activists who are trying to support these people are being surveilled by the Department of Homeland Security.
Interesting.
And they got just brought up on charges of,
Yeah, and they all
You
went
know-
out and protested too.
and this
so
is
it's
before
like,
George Floyd happened. We actually got this
Yeah, yeah.
in the time capsule. It's very interesting.
You know what's going to be interesting is a lot of people from Occupy Wall Street are like hardcore Trump supporters now. MAGA hat, full on Trump. I wonder what these people are going to do now with with the Biden presidency.
I don't know that their whole identity has been built around this, and that's a problem. Like
No,
people
no,
should
no,
be
I'm-
nuanced. They should have nuance.
No,
in
I'm
their,
I'm not talking about like there are diehard Trumpers that are going to be diehard Trumpers.
Sure.
But there are Occupy Wall Street people who supported Trump because Trump was anti-Trans-Pacific Partnership and NAFTA, and these are older people too. Like these are people
You're right,
who
yeah.
protested WTO and stuff. So I wonder if there's going to be like a move back, and they're going to be more along with like the leftists marching now and stuff.
I don't know. I mean, look what happened with Assange in terms of how people, polarize around something.
So
it's really
weird.
interesting. Yeah.
Hero of the left. And now he's Russian right wing, whatever. Anyway, so thanks for hanging out, guys.
Thank you.
YouTube.com. What's the URL now? SCNR.
It's scnr.com.
Well, yeah, just go to
SCNR.com.
scnr.com. That works.
Boom. 4-letter URL.
Love it.
Wow.
Hard to come by.
Yeah, hard to come by.
Yes.
So, do you want to shout that out? Do you want to mention your social media or anything?
Scannerbot on Twitter.
SCNRBOT.
Scannerbot. It's not a bot.
Not actually a bot.
Kinda
Talk
tongue
about
in
bots.
cheek,
We might
or-
start experimenting with some projects that are more AI driven, and to show you, we like to break stuff. Like we want to like feed stuff into botnets and show you how we could put a thought in your head and then reveal that it was fake.
Sure.
I like the people that are saying Rocco didn't kill himself.
What? Oh snap! He did not. Look at him.
I
how
think
cheerful he is.
I
would
think
never.
one thing I try to do and have had conversations about is trying to break echo chambers, knowing that there's a culture war internet landscape of which I am very much active in, but I want to make sure I can create like an exit door. So I think if people follow you guys, they're not going to get echo chamber. They're not going to get confirmation
You may
bias.
not like what you hear or what we report on, but that's probably because it pulls the rug out from under you. And really, at the end of the day, that's in your service. We're looking to
think so.
in the service of the public's interest, and that's the definition of journalism. And if you sway from that, you get into other things. We're not interested in those things.
And I think you guys will get some things wrong. I think you'll get some things right. I think everyone does and everyone will.
Sure.
And that's why it's important.
We will be transparent about that, though.
Right, having a path to be like, if I'll put it this way, if anybody watching takes issue with anything you guys say or do, I think they can just email and be like, check
email
out
us.
the facts. Here's the
Email us.
data.
We'll have you on if you really
Please.
want to be nasty. We'll have you on, and we'll be nasty too, or we'll be nice.
Yeah, great.
Yeah.
Like, you know,
She try and be nice.
Emily's like,
Well,
really
I-
nice.
my whole
is
thing
great,
is-
you know.
Yeah.
But if you do take
yeah.
the destructive path, you know, there's
Go,
more of that.
it's more like the golden rule: treat others like you want to be treated. It's just
Yeah.
never been applied
Yeah.
to journalism. You know,
Sure.
What a tremendous, interesting experiment that would be.
Yeah.
I'm
Alright,
joking.
alright.
I also like to have fun, by the way. A lot of
Yeah,
this
yeah.
is like
Yeah.
I'm a troll, like boxy. I'm not really. I'm more just like trying to make people look in the mirror about themselves.
I think we've seen some people say you guys are legit. Some people say that you're biased.
It doesn't bother us.
No,
I
but
don't
I
care.
think that's a good thing. I think you like I say, follow people that you don't agree with.
They
You
sound
can't
well-rounded.
only just watch my stuff. You got to
But
watch
be
other people.
prepared
so.
to prove. Like disagreeing is one thing, but you can't disagree with facts. You can't, and there's no such thing as
Facts
alternative.
don't care
Right.
about your feelings.
Exactly.
Well, and a fact finder, just so people that believe in alternative facts, when you go to court, the judge is the fact finder, and if
Yeah.
they find the facts that put your ass in jail, that's real.
Yep, that's real.
All right,
Carry
all right.
that one.
Sound good?
Do you want to mention your social media or anything?
I mean, not really. You can just.
Yeah, we're not
I
going to
really-
give you our social
I don't
media. We're
really,
different.
I don't really use Twitter much or anything like
All right.
that. No,
Yeah.
but
So
but watch
yeah.
our new video on
Yeah.
our YouTube.
SCNR.com.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and check out I'm Rocco_Castro. There's a bunch of evidence that we've been talking about. I've just used
Cool.
I use Twitter as an evidence shed to like if
House
I do
stuff.
if I don't kill myself, you know what I mean? Then,
You're not going to. That's a joke.
Well,
Joke.
if something happens to Rocco, it'll already be too late.
Yeah,
for
it'll
him
be
to
too
stop
late.
the stories. So
well, John
that's right.
McAfee's my kill switch. So
That's perfect kill switch. I love it.
And of course, you can follow Lydia at Sour Patch
That's
Lids.
correct. I'm at Sour Patch Lids.
Just kidding about the John
LYDS.
McAfee.
And you can follow me on Twitter, Instagram, Parlor at Timcast. And you can check out my other YouTube channels, youtube.com/Timcast and youtube.com/Timcast News. I also talk really fast.
Faster.
Hit the like button before you go. And we are going to, I got to tell you, friends, I can't tell you what's going to, what we have.
I am so excited.
We're going to have a crazy week.
crazy.
We're going to have a really great guest tomorrow. We don't really announce the guests because, if they
They
cancel on us.
back out on us.
Well, no,
How often does that happen?
it happened twice because
Yeah.
of administrative issues for our guests.
Yeah.
So it was like really boring, nonsensical reasons like, I missed my flight or like,
Something came up.
yeah, something came up. And so I don't want to like get everyone hyped up, but I think tomorrow's going to be really, really fun. And but this week is going to be interesting.
It's gonna be
Anyway,
lit.
thanks for hanging out, everybody. Again, check out scnr.com if you want to see the reporting on what sounds like a bunch of different stories and a very complicated one. But I'm particularly interested to hear about this list of compromised people.
All you got to
so-
remember is Guo knows.
Glow knows. All
Who
right.
knows? Interesting.
All right, everybody. Thanks for hanging out, and we will see you all again tomorrow night at 8 p.m.
All right. Bye, guys.
Thank you.